Chapter 879. The angel that descended from the sky was naturally Tai Jinxing, who had great prestige in front of the Jade Emperor. He was a #1 errand boy of the heavenly court and was extremely lively. The Monkey King caused havoc in the divine court of Mount Tai, the heavenly river, and even suppressed the southern heavenly gate. In the end, he was conferred the title of the Emperor of the heavenly court. This time, he came with the imperial decree of the Jade Emperor to settle the case of the Qin dynasty. He had the intention to buy something good for the Monkey King. Naturally, he did not dare to show off the majesty of the heavenly court in front of the building where Chun Ong and the Grand Supreme Lord lived. Moreover, there was also the Monkey King, the heaven's equal demon emperor of the heavenly court, serving tea and doing chores. He immediately put away the celestial aura carefully. The laws of the heavenly court were strict. The heavenly rules were not just words on a piece of paper. Instead, they were engraved in the heavenly Tao. The heaven and earth had corresponding laws. The heavenly flowers, heavenly ladies, celestial sounds, magical conch, and all the rituals did not need the celestials to make a noise. Therefore, Tai Jinxing took the initiative to restrain himself and showed some friendliness. The Monkey King was now the emperor and had a high status in the three realms. If he was not extremely respectful in front of his master and took the initiative to put away the ritual, as long as he released his aura, the chi of heaven and earth would automatically transform into a set of ritual, which was 100 times more majestic than Tai Jinxing. The emperor of the heavenly court had a high status. According to the ritual, when the heavens' equal demon emperor descended to the lower realm, there would be celestial light, auspicious clouds, heavenly flowers, wonderful sounds flying in the sky, a ray of green light shooting up 30,000 miles, 5-colored heavenly flowers falling, golden lotuses appearing on the ground, and all kinds of auspicious signs, such as Ganoderma and herbs growing quietly in every corner of the building. If a human cultivator could get one, he would have the hope of becoming a celestial. In order to prove that their country was in unprecedented peace and prosperity, the emperors of the human world had to fabricate all kinds of auspicious signs, such as white deer, black cranes, and 5-colored Ganoderma. They were imitating the majesty of the emperor of the heavenly courts. As for saints like Chunong and Lao Jun, the place where they stayed was the heavenly Tao. There was not much grandeur, but there was a mysterious fate. For example, Lao Jun created the Tao Te Ching, Chunong founded the Yangzhu sect, and Confucius compiled the 4 books and cultivated the 5 classics. All of them were imparting the meaning of moral education. The divine central continent was a land of outstanding people, so it had its own fate, which was the legacy of the sages. Compared to the heavenly court, such a realm where morality was passed down to the world was much more profound. Tai Jinxing followed Yi Xian and saw Chunong and the Monkey King. They were performing divination and predicting the future. When Chunong saw Tai Jinxing, he nodded slightly and smiled. Tai Jinxing, you've come under the grand heavenly venerate's imperial decree. I can't welcome you. Please forgive me. Tai Jinxing hurriedly said, Heavenly venerate, you're too polite. The grand heavenly venerate also knows that the heavenly venerate is a pure and moral person. It's already an offense for us vulgar immortals to disturb you. How would we dare to be rude? I wonder what kind of decree the grand heavenly venerate has brought for you. My disciple is mischievous. If he has offended the grand heavenly venerate, I will definitely punish him severely. Did he cause any trouble? Chunong asked with a smile. Hearing Chunang's question, Tai Jinxing could not answer. He could only turn his head slightly to look at the Monkey King's expression. The Monkey King beside him raised his head slightly and revealed a murderous smile. Tai Jinxing trembled and hurriedly said, No, the heavenly venerate must be joking. The great emperor's equal is really a pillar of the heavenly courts. The demons outside the South Heaven Gate are congratulated by the immortals. The grand heavenly venerate personally invited him to ascend to the throne of the heavenly court's demon emperor's equal. The immortals and gods respect him, and the demons and demons come to the court. What kind of boldness is that? I also admire him greatly. Ha ha! Chenong smiled and said, "My disciple only did a small job. How can he be rewarded so heavily by the grand heavenly venerate?" After laughing, he turned to the Monkey King and said, "Monkey King, with such results in the grand heavenly venerate's favor, you can't be arrogant. You have to work harder in the future." Tai Bai Jinxing complained in his heart. This demon king almost caused the heavenly courts to lose an imperial lord and 50,000 heavenly river navy. At the Mount Tai Divine Court, the gods were tormented badly. The heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals who went down to the mortal world to fight him had their dharma bodies damaged. There are also 80,000 spiritual mountains and 100,000 mountain gods. Is he trying to snatch the position under the grand heavenly venerate? He hurriedly returned to the main topic and said, "Previously, the king of Qin reported the great emperor's equal to heaven, saying that he had smashed the Qin court and threatened the queen mother. Later, the Jade Emperor sent the Thunder Division to investigate. The Thunder God was deceived by the Qin court's alchemist, Tissot, and had a few conflicts with the great emperor's equal to heaven. He lost many spiritual mountains and made the great emperor swallow 80,000 spiritual mountains. In a day, many famous mountains and rivers were lost in Middle-earth. The earth chi was unstable, and the dragon veins were damaged. This is the first matter. The second matter is the heavenly court's decision to deal with this matter. Needless to say, the king of Qin suffered a calamity. He didn't know the will of heaven and the will of the people. The mortal warlock, Tissot, went against the will of heaven and stopped the two sages from going west. His crime was unforgivable. Therefore, the decision was to send Tissot to the 18th layer of hell and be punished for 1,000 years. He will be reincarnated as an ignorant plant, unable to reincarnate for 9 lifetimes. As for the king of Qin, he will be punished by heaven. After 3 years of drought, he will be sent to the 9th layer of hell and be punished for 81 years. He will be reincarnated as an animal, unable to reincarnate for 3 lifetimes. In this decree, the heavenly court's power to suppress the human path and rule the 3 realms was fully displayed. The king of Qin was also a human king, one of the people who occupied the heavens. If the heavenly courts convicted him, he would be fine when he was alive, but after death, he would be punished. Even a noble would have to suffer in hell. In the future, when Emperor Taizong of Tang went to hell, he was still threatened and manipulated. The power of the divine path over the human path was evident. The good and evil of the 3 realms were separated, and the fate of reincarnation was under the control of the heavenly courts. The people of the 3 realms couldn't transcend, and the human path fell into countless tribulations. It was no wonder that it attracted the attention of Sect Master Chun of the other world, causing his other identity to fall into this world. After Lord Tai Bai Jinxing announced the heavenly court's opinion on this matter, he asked kindly, "How is it? Are the sages and great emperor equal heaven satisfied with this result?" Chenong didn't say anything, but the Monkey King's expression changed, and he asked, "The king of Qin was rude, but it was his fault. What does it have to do with the people of Qin? During the 3 years of drought, the king of Qin could drink and dance, but didn't the poor people die? Why did the heavenly courts punish the innocent people, but the culprit benefited?" Tai Bai Jinxing smiled and said, "Great Emperor, you don't know this, but the king of Qin's fate is protected by Qin. Their fate is the same. So how can the heavenly courts punish a human king? Only during reincarnation will the good and evil of the human world be settled. The king of Qin's mistake has offended the heavens. Naturally, there will be a reaction from the heavens and a calamity. Such a calamity is the fault of the human king sent by the heavens. In the mortal world, there are naturally loyal and filial sons who advise the king of Qin to declare his crimes. This is the reaction of the heavens and a sign that the human king has been punished by the heavens. I think he must be uneasy and terrified day and night. The great emperor can also vent his anger." When the Monkey King heard that, he fell silent for a long time before saying, "What are the people of Qin's fault? This matter has nothing to do with them. Remove this. As for the rest, as you said, His words were actually a little lonely. Tai Bai Jinxing didn't know why the Monkey King was suddenly in low spirits, but he naturally wouldn't reject such a small matter. As Tai Bai Jinxing left with the Monkey King's opinion, the Monkey King knelt in front of Chenong and said, "Master, I know what you mean by the heavenly courts being immoral and offending the heavens and humans. The weather, wind, rain, thunder, lightning, the changes of the four seasons, and even floods and droughts are all part of the operation of the heavenly Tao. It's the survival of the fittest. The heart of the heavens is emotionless and only follows the Tao. As for the sentient beings, all sorts of love and hatred, karma, and retribution are part of the operation of the human Tao. Morals, ethics, reason, and laws should only be operated by the hearts of the living. Now that the divine Tao is mixed with the human Tao, the heavenly Tao is one, and the heavenly Tao is not separated. They operate the heavenly Tao according to the good and evil of the human Tao. On one hand, they use the good and evil of the human Tao to interfere with the operation of the heavenly Tao. On the other hand, they use the methods of the heavenly Tao to interfere with the human Tao. By mixing the heavenly will and the human Tao, the heavenly courts are indeed immoral. Master is the master of the human Tao, but you also respect the heavenly Tao and the survival of the fittest. This is the separation of the heavenly courts. On one hand, the human Tao is constantly striving to become stronger, and on the other hand, the heavenly courts naturally follows the Tao. This is the right Tao. Therefore, to follow the heavenly Tao and promote the human Tao, we should destroy the heavenly courts. This is the killing intent of the heavenly courts and the human Tao. When the stars change and the heaven and earth change, only then can the heavenly courts be united and set the foundation." Chenong sighed and said, "Idiot." As soon as the Monkey King finished speaking, he raised his cudgel and walked out of the door while laughing at the sky. In the next instant, the King of Qin suddenly felt uneasy in the palace. He turned his head and saw a monkey baring his teeth and glaring angrily. The monkey was holding an iron cudgel upside down and was about to hit his head. On the King of Qin's head, red and white were scattered all over the ground. The top of his head was split open, and his soul went straight to the netherworld. The King of Qin woke up and realized that it was just a dream. He was in a daze and felt extremely uneasy. He hurriedly shouted, "Someone come! Someone come! Go and invite Di Fengshi over." An attendant went to call for him. Not long later, the attendant ran back in panic and reported, Your Majesty, bad news. That Di Fengshi was beaten to death in the palace by an unknown murderer. His head was split open and red and white were scattered all over the ground. The King of Qin turned pale with fright. He stood up in horror and screamed before fainting. Beside the King of Qin, an invisible ghost messenger begged bitterly, "Great Emperor, you really can't. This King of Qin's lifespan hasn't ended yet. You can't take his soul away. You can do whatever you want to this great Emperor Di Fengshi, but this King of Qin still has 20 years left to live. His fate hasn't ended yet." The Monkey King smiled and said, "If you want the King of Qin, I'll give you the King of Qin. Stop being so long-winded and quickly suppress this fellow, or else I'll let you see my methods." As he said this, he casually pulled over the soul of a dead member of the side branch of the royal family and said to him, "From today onwards, you are the King of Qin." As soon as he finished, he stuffed the soul back into the King of Qin's body. The ghost messenger cried out continuously, but what was done could not be undone. He then suppressed the former King of Qin's soul and returned to the netherworld to report on his mission. In the King of Qin's court, the King of Qin shouted, "Ah," and woke up. He asked in fear, "Great Emperor, what happened to you?" Chapter 880. After the Monkey King beat the King of Qin to death, he felt that it wasn't enough. He still had a sense of depression in his heart, but he couldn't kill the god of thunder with his rod. This made it hard for him to vent his anger. However, the god of thunder had a strong background and had the support of the great heavenly lord. Even though the Monkey King had humiliated the Emperor of East Mountain and caused a ruckus in the heavenly river navy, he still couldn't be easily dealt with. The Monkey King leaned on the golden cudgel and looked at the king of Cheen and Tefanchi's lonely souls being taken away by the messengers of hell. This was supposed to be a joyful thing to do as he pleased, but made the Monkey King unhappy. Under the rule of the heavenly court that ruled the three realms, there were all kinds of rules and laws, like a net that was endless. However, this inescapable net wasn't a fair law, but it had a strong sense of selfishness in it. The rules didn't have the ruthlessness and selflessness of the heavenly will, but it was like the gratitude and grudges of the human world. There were always entanglements and countless evil thoughts, making people unable to break free from it. Teacher didn't take this treasure away. Wukong took out the small golden boat from his bosom and thought, "Looks like he's tacitly allowing me to raise a group of soldiers in it, a lot of demons' mouths. Later when I return, I'll ask Master for a favor and ask him to lend me the golden boat for a few more days. However, I have to let the Bull Demon King go first. Teacher's plan is exquisite. He has a huge family in Gile Mountain and many troops. It is said that he even hooked up with a Rakshasa princess and will bring a lot of dowry. Teacher told me to cast a long line and catch a big fish. Not only do I have to trick his troops into my hands, but I also have to trick his wife and even his children and concubines. It will be best if I can get him to invite friends from all over to fall into my trap. I still have to learn the skill of casting bait and catching fish." The Monkey King's shifty eyes darted around. After he made up his mind, he released a strand of hair, which turned into a golden light and entered the golden boat in his palm. The strand of hair turned into the appearance of the Monkey King and went to meet the three demon kings who were suppressing the golden boat's formation. Among the three demon kings, the Dragon Demon King had long been restrained by Chenong and became a traitor. He was in charge of provoking the Bull Demon King to seek revenge. However, the Rock Demon King and the Bull Demon King were locked up tightly after the battle at the southern heavenly gate. "Demon Bull King, are you going to surrender or not?" The Monkey King laughed coldly. "Kill me if you dare. I, the Bull Demon King, would rather die than surrender to a lackey of the heavenly court. What kind of demon emperor are you? The true demon emperor will definitely unite all the demons in the world, lead an army to attack the heavenly court, and compete with that old jade emperor." Bull Demon King said hatefully, "I will fight to the death with the heavenly court." The Monkey King laughed coldly and said, "Then I will have to rely on you demon kings and demon kings. I will need your support, and I will have to indulge your demonic habits. Who knows, I will have to learn those filthy habits from you. I will have to learn from you cruel and despicable demons who enjoy blood and flesh. Dream on. Why should I, old son, give up a good natural treasure and learn from you to be a beast? Do I have to learn from those demons in order to rule them? There are pigs and dogs under me. Do I have to learn from them and eat sh*t? If you surrender to me, you'll get rid of your rude and unreasonable habits and learn some morals and etiquette from the human race. This will also give me some credit in teaching you. If you don't surrender, I will lead the army to wipe out the demons and use you as a sacrifice." Wukong shouted sternly and interrogated the three demon kings. "Speaking of which, are you guys surrendering or not?" That demon king Jiao received Chun Ang's instructions and whispered to the two demon kings, "Brothers, where there's life, there's hope. We will pretend to surrender first, and when the time is right, we will raise the flag to rebel and teach them a lesson. For now, we will temporarily surrender. What do you two brothers think?" The Rock Demon King snorted coldly and said, "If you want to surrender, then surrender. If you want to rebel, then rebel. Why must you surrender first and then rebel? I, the Rock Demon King, am not willing to be such a demon. That Monkey King is powerful and has amazing spirit. He is a hero among demons. It won't be embarrassing even if we surrender to him. But I, the Rock Demon King, disdain being such a villain. Second brother, don't say such words. What kind of hero among demons is he?" The Bull Demon King said angrily, "This is a dog of the heavenly court. What kind of hero am I, the Bull Demon King, to be inferior to this lowly demon? Even if I want to surrender, it won't do. Outside, the Monkey King said, "Bull Demon King, I have fought 3 rounds with you. You can't even defeat a strand of my hair. How dare you boast and be so arrogant? Let me ask you, are you convinced of my strength?" The Bull Demon King was enraged as he said this. He said to the Monkey King, "You just used some tricks. If it was a fair fight, would I be afraid of you? You bullied me because I wasn't prepared and the heavenly court gods were plotting against me, causing me to lose in a daze. If I invite my friends and borrow a few powerful treasures, you won't be able to escape." "All right." The Monkey King smiled and said, "If that's the case, I will spare your life. I will let you invite your friends from all over the world and borrow the treasures of the great demon sage. We will fight again and see who is stronger. I will make you convinced." Before the Bull Demon King could reply, the Jiao Demon King replied impatiently, "Monkey King, is what you said true? I, old son, am the Demon Emperor. Why would I lie to you country bumpkins?" The Monkey King pretended to be angry. The Jiao Demon King hurriedly said to the Bull Demon King and the Rock Demon King, "Brothers, if that's the case, why don't we fight it again? Since the Monkey King is so bold, let's invite the great Demon Kings of the 4 continents. The Monkey King is called the Demon Emperor, and there will definitely be many old and powerful demons who are not convinced. If we tell the Demon Kings about his arrogance, they will definitely be agitated. Many of the great demons who live in seclusion will not be able to resist coming out. When that time comes, we will unite the Demon Kings and fight the Monkey King. Only then can we wash away the humiliation today." The Jiao Demon King had used his glib tongue to persuade the Bull Demon King and the Rock Demon King. It was obvious how much trouble a traitor could cause. After the 3 Demon Kings made up their minds, they said to the Monkey King, "If you dare, let us out and we will fight again." The Monkey King thought to himself, "I've fallen for their trap." He shook the golden ship and released the 3 Demon Kings. The Jiao Demon King did not even turn his head. The moment he left the golden ship, he transformed into a beam of light and left. The Rock Demon King hesitated for a moment before flapping his wings and escaping. Only the Bull Demon King came out of the golden ship and said to Wukong, "You are a forthright hero, but the celestial court and the demons are irreconcilable. Wait till I invite the great demons over. Then we will discuss the position of the Demon Emperor." The Monkey King laughed in his heart. Let's go. The more you can invite, the better. If you can invite 80% of the great demons of the 3 realms, I will be able to accomplish this in one go. It will save me the trouble of running around. These will all be my wealth in the future." Chapter 881. After the Monkey King released the 3 Demon Kings, he turned around and returned to the Zhongnan Mountain Temple. He saw his honored master and Laozi holding a golden lianhua and smiling at each other while sitting on the couch. Seeing that the Monkey King had returned, he ordered him to invite the other 2 disciples in the temple. The Monkey King then brought the green bull and Ishi to worship the 2 saints. The green bull also transformed into a human form. The 3 of them sat down and listened as Chang'ong held the golden lotus and showed it to the 3 of them. He said, "Just now the great strength Bodhisattva of Spirited Mountain in the west brought a golden lotus from the 8 treasures merit pool under Buddha to Thagata. It was a letter that the great world lord sent to me and fellow Taoist Tai Ching. The letter said that fellow Taoist Tai Ching and I will go to the west to spread the Dharma and transform into Buddha. It will be a great merit throughout the 3 realms. However, the Dharma must not be spread easily to prevent the Western barbarians from belittling our Dharma. Therefore, there must be corresponding tribulations. The saints should hold scriptures in one hand and a sword in the other, so that they can fight everywhere." Chang'ong stopped talking, smiled at Laozi, and explained fellow Taoist Tai Ching was originally the reincarnation of Laozi. He traveled to the west and became a Buddha. He established the Pure Land and became one of the branches of Mahayana Buddhism in Spirited Mountain in the future. In the future, he achieved enlightenment and became Amitabha, also known as Amitabha Buddha. He went through 49 tribulations and educated the barbarians. Fellow Taoist Tai Ching is reasonable. He gave me a position which is in line with the name of my sect, which is Amitabha Buddha and Lao Dan. Fellow Taoist Tai Ching is reasonable. He gave me a position, which is in line with the name of my sect, which is Amitabha Buddha and Lao Dan is Amitabha Buddha. However, the orthodoxy of Spirited Mountain is stingy. The great world Lord Tathagata is afraid that he can't suppress two foreign monks like us. Previously, when the Monkey King made a mess in the Heavenly Palace, I set a trap at the foot of Mount Zhongnan. I defeated 3 of its bodhisattvas, 800 of its arhats, and stopped 3,000 of its Buddhas from leaving the gate of Spirited Mountain. Only then did the great world Lord Tathagata discuss with me. Therefore, there was the Golden Lotus Message Pact. The 2 saints transformed into Buddha and went to the West to teach all living beings. With the increase of Dharma luck, there must be an increase of devil hindrance. Under the increase of tribulations, many Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Bhikkhus of Spirited Mountain wanted to come to the earth to stop me from going to the West. Many demon and demon kings also wanted to take this opportunity. According to the Golden Lotus Message Pact, Lao Dan and I are both mortals. It's difficult for us to defeat the devil hindrance. Therefore, we need the few of you to protect us. In the future, there will be a few people who are fated to inherit Lao Dan and I to become our disciples and protect us on our way to the West. Upon hearing this, the Monkey King had an idea. He silently activated his primordial spirit. The quantum primordial spirit was full of calculations. As it operated, it gradually saw through some of the secrets of heaven that the 2 saints had concealed. It turned out that the tribulations of becoming Buddha in the West were not that severe. With the 2 saints' profound background and profound mana, not many people in the world could face the tribulations for them. Therefore, most of them were just passing through the tribulations. However, Chenong was very calculative. He pushed the Monkey King out. After a series of calculations, he caused havoc in the Heavenly Palace and allowed the Monkey King to ascend to the position of the Demon Emperor, which almost caused the great tribulation of the humans and demons. If the Monkey King was not conferred by the Heavenly Court, his Dharma luck would start from the demons. There would be an almost unstoppable great tribulation of the humans and demons. The 3 realms would be slaughtered until there was a winner between the humans, the demons, the Heavenly Court, and the demons. 99% of the winners would be the demons, and the Heavenly Court would rule for another hundreds of tribulations. If the Monkey King was only conferred by the Heavenly Court, he could only be a puppet. In the future, he would inevitably have to rebel against the Heavenly Court. However, Chunang's calculations and the Monkey King's hair clones had deceived many demon kings and demon armies. With the foundation and the Dharma luck of the Heavenly Court, there were many unknown changes in the tribulations. Now, many tribulations had not been settled. Chunong integrated the great tribulation of the humans and demons into the tribulation of becoming Buddha in the West. He wore the appearance of traveling to the West, but in fact, it was the Demon Emperor's tribulations that were determined by the Monkey King. The tribulations that entangled the 3 sages were extremely dangerous. In the future, when the great sage Sakyamuni, Chenong, and Lao Dan traveled to the West, the 3 sages sat in India and discussed Tao. They developed the Mahayana Buddhism together and turned the Hinayana Buddhism into the Mahayana Buddhism. In a day, they achieved 3 Buddhas, Sakyamuni, Amitabha, and Amitabha Buddha, and the Amitabha Buddha, and the devil tribulation was almost endless. Such tribulations had exceeded the calculations of anyone except the 3 sages. Even the great heavenly Lord Jade Emperor and the Monkey King could not understand it. The Monkey King touched the veins and was shocked by the complicated karma. He bowed and said, "There's something that I don't understand. Master, please enlighten me. The tribulations of this journey to the West are really complicated. I don't know how many tribulations and difficulties we'll have to go through. Do you have a number?" Chunong pondered for a moment and suddenly smiled. There should be 3,000 major tribulations and 129,600 minor tribulations for such complicated tribulations, which is exactly the number of 1 yuan. However, most of them are the devil tribulation of the birth of the 3 Buddhas, or the tribulations of the heavenly court. In the future, the tribulations of the disciples of Tai Ching and me will be the total tribulations of the three realms. Many of them will have to be delayed until 2,000 years later. There are only 81 tribulations on this journey to the west. Lao Dan also opened his eyes. His long eyebrows trembled slightly as he said slowly, "Once we leave the Lu Guan, we'll enter the tribulations and face many tribulations?" When sure, she stepped forward and said, "I'm here." Lao Dan said, "The tribulations on you are shallow. Therefore, there's no fate on this journey to the west. When you arrive at Quicksand River, go back. When you return to the Central Plains, teach me the Tao of Tao." As soon as Lao Dan said this, Ishi sensed it. He knew that the sage was right, so he bowed and promised. Lao Dan said again, "Green Bull." The burly man that the Green Bull transformed into stepped forward and said, "Master, the Green Bull is here." Lao Dan sighed and said, "You've carried me to the west. You've worked hard and been cautious. I'll temporarily give you the Vajra bracelet to protect yourself. You'll have your own fate in the future." The Green Bull quickly bowed and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Master." "Monkey King," Lao Dan shouted at the end. The Monkey King went forward and still bowed to him as a master. Lao Jun said, "Although you're Cult Master Chen's disciple, you're also my disciple. You have a deep root of sin. The Celestial Stone turned into your original form. If you were a human and a monkey, your spirituality would be the strongest. However, the monkey form is unpredictable, so it's the most difficult to subdue it. Therefore, your root of sin is deep because it's difficult to have two hearts. You were originally a lawless and out-of-control person. Even though your wisdom is natural and your perception is superb, it does not conform to my temperament of not doing anything and not doing anything. Therefore, Cult Master Chun thinks highly of you, but I did not teach you anything. You're in the midst of a tribulation. If you're a normal cultivator, you'll naturally be terrified. However, you're Cult Master Chen's disciple. I'm afraid that your lineage doesn't care about tribulations at all. You don't cultivate morals, don't respect ethics, don't seek longevity, don't have emotions, don't ask for inner thoughts, don't ask for help from the outside. You're lawless, able to deal with all tribulations, cut off all karma, and only the Tao is in front of you. Cult Master Chen's path of seeking Tao is too cruel. It's very possible. Monkey King, you know it yourself. Lao Dan said. He lowered his eyebrows and didn't say anything else. The Monkey King bowed deeply, and when he stood up again, he was no shorter than Lao Dan. He returned to his seat, and Chunong said, "If that's the case, let's pack our luggage and get ready to go." The Green Bull returned to the empty space in front of the temple and transformed back into its original form. The Monkey King held the golden ship and thought with some difficulty, "I've used Master's carriage to install a lot of equipment. What should I do?" Before he could think of a way, the golden ship in his hand turned into a bronze carriage. Chenong and Lao Dan came out from the temple. Chenong glanced at the Monkey King indifferently and got on the carriage without saying anything. The Monkey King was instantly dumbfounded. He didn't know what to say. Could it be that he had to ask his master to lift his butt and release the 10 million demon army under him? Chapter 882. The Monkey King drove the oxen and the carriage out of Mount Zhongnan. After walking for a few days, they were already out of Qin's territory. It was a scenic spot in the center of the pass. The lush forests and plains were now filled with rolling hills. The wind was blowing and large tracts of farmland had turned into grasslands. Although there were many remnants of Shirong, it was still Qin territory. This was due to the work of Dr. Bai Li Shi 100 years ago. Bai Li Shi assisted Duke Mu to destroy the 12 countries of Shirong, expanding their territory by 1,000 miles. The first emperor of Qin was a descendant of a merchant, a descendant of a Xian bird and the same ancestor as Minister Zhao Jin. 100 years later, during the Warring States period, the three families were divided and Minister Zhao established his own country, Zhao. Both Qin and Zhao were descendants of Fei Lian. The Ying family was the descendant of Fei Lian's eldest son, Erlai, while the Zhao family was the descendant of his second son, Jisheng. Because the ancestor of the Zhao family created a father, he was bestowed the land of Zhao. The first emperor of Qin, the Ying family, was named Zheng, so Ying Zheng's name was Zhao Zheng. Now the two families still had some friendship, but during the Warring States period, the two countries with the same surname, Qin and Zhao, were already mortal enemies. The first emperor of Qin, Qin Feizi, also known as Zhao Feizi, was King Xiaozhou. After 5 generations, he conquered the warhounds, expanded the barbarians, and cut down the thorns. Finally, Duke Xiang ascended to the throne, and Duke Mu expanded his territory by 1,000 miles to the west, becoming the western screen of Huaxia, a large country in the center of the pass. The oxen carriage traveled on the Qin road. Suddenly, a merchant who was herding cattle saw the bronze carriage and came up to talk. "Master on the carriage, you can't go any further. Further ahead is the Yi Chu tribe. They are the war hounds, bloodthirsty and barbaric. They are most wary of people from Huaxia. Other than the merchants who are familiar with them, anyone who goes to their territory will be harmed by them." The Monkey King saw that the person who came up to advise him was a slightly childish youth and replied, "This little brother, we don't even have an inch of armor with us. There are only my 2 masters on the carriage, bringing us to study the various countries. When the Yi Chu people see us empty-handed, they won't treat us as bad people. You're going to harm them at every turn." When the youth saw the Monkey King's true appearance, he was shocked. He pointed at the Monkey King and said, "Why is there hair on your face? Like a monkey?" Monkey King giggled. "I'm from the hairy nation of the south. I admire the culture of the Central Plains, so I'm under your tutelage." "I see," the youth said embarrassedly. "I've never left Qin. The furthest I've gone is to sell cattle in Guangzhou with my father." "What a surprise. I've heard that the people of the Chu Kingdom in the south have feathers on their bodies and thorns all over their faces. They look like ghosts and gods. I think the people of the south are more eccentric and not as pure as us northerners. But all of you didn't even bring armor, so you'll probably be killed by that Rongdi even more. Rongdi fears power, but not virtue. If you bring armor, those small tribes will see that you have some resistance and are afraid of losing too many young warriors, so they won't make a move. Only those large tribes with thousands of people will make a move. If you go west without any weapons, I'm afraid you'll be killed by those warhounds in less than 2 days." The youth solemnly vowed, "When we go to the Shirong to sell horses, we'll sell them salt and silk, as well as their cattle and horses, exchanging what they need. We are the people that the warhounds need the most." It's like this: every time the merchants go to the Yi Chu, there will be 1 or 2 out of 10 that will be killed by those greedy warhounds. Our caravan has armor and strong bows and crossbows. The caravan is filled with strong men who are skilled in martial arts, so we won't be harmed by them. If you really want to go to the Shirong to test your knowledge, it's best if you find a caravan that passes by. The Monkey King saw that he was riding a horse and had some skills. His eyes turned, and he suddenly said with a smile, "With this kind of armored caravan, if we meet a small Rong tribe, we'll have to do business without any capital, right?" The youth gave a shy smile. He was a bit embarrassed, but there was no shame in his smile as he said, "If we meet a small tribe with a lot of cattle and horses, of course we'll rob them. Those barbarian Rongdi are like the beasts that our Qin people raise in the wild. These beasts have bad horns, so when they grow fat, naturally we'll slaughter them. When our Qin men grow up, we'll kill them and expel them, expanding our land." The youth looked up at the indifferent listening Chun Ong, an old man on the carriage, and asked, "You 2 masters seem to be knowledgeable people, but do you look down on us?" Chun Ong said with a smile, "Respecting the king and expelling the barbarians is the righteous cause of China. How can we look down on it? Moreover, the way of humans is to constantly strive for self-improvement. The way of the heavens is to survive. Isn't it in accordance with the will of the heavens to expand our land and kill?" The old man said, "Taishang, we don't know. Next we praise him. Next we fear him. Next we humiliate him. If we don't believe in him, we don't believe in him." Longshi, what noble words. When success is achieved, the people will say, "I am natural." The youth's eyes brightened, and he said with a smile, "Both of you are indeed knowledgeable scholars, unlike those muddle-headed people who talk about treachery and robbery. 2 years ago, a person from Qi came, and his mind is so muddled. This is a little strange. The pre-Qin scholars are not like the pedantic scholars of the later generations who talk about benevolence and benevolence. The early Qin dynasty was the time when China was expanding its territory and martial arts were at their peak. Even if Confucius was here and saw the army of the Qin dynasty, he would probably praise, 111, my quilt is on the left. As a result, the Qin and Han dynasties inherited the customs of the pre-Qin dynasty and were highly skilled in martial arts. They only praised the martial arts of conquering the barbarians and did not advise them to be hypocritical. Under this kind of honoring the king and expelling the barbarians, the people of Qi were strange flowers. The youth had a good impression of them and couldn't bear to see them send themselves to death. So he suggested, "Those warhounds have a murderous nature and are very fierce. You shouldn't go west for now. It's already close to winter, and if you go west, it won't be long before winter arrives. At that time, there won't be any firewood on the prairies, and there will be a white disaster. It'll be dangerous to lose your way. It's really a 9 out of 10 chance of survival. It's a blessing from the heavens to meet the Righteous Canal Warhounds winter camp. Those warhounds lack food and clothing during the winter, so they will definitely not let you go. Perhaps your flesh will be taken advantage of by those warhounds. It's better to wait until next spring when the warhounds need salt and copper. Then you can travel with those large caravans." Although this youth had good intentions and his words were reasonable, Chenong, the Monkey King, and the others were not normal people. Moreover, they were going to the Western Sindhu. If they stopped for half a year today and rested for 2 months tomorrow, it would take them several years to finish. The road to the West was different from 1,000 years later when the Great Tang was flourishing. At that time, the Western countries would have relations with the Great Tang, and there would be many merchants coming and going. With a Silk Road, it would not be hard to go to India. But the current Huaxiao was still filled with martial arts, and the western region was filled with barbarians. There were the Xiongnu, Warhounds, Turks, Yuezhi, and various other nomadic tribes. If they were a bit late, they might even meet the Greek Macedonians. They were all barbarians who ate raw meat and drank blood, killing each other. With Chunang's group heading west, they would definitely kill their way out. The Monkey King could not think of a solution, so he could only ask Chenong, "Master, this road to the west is filled with barbarians and savages. Perhaps they won't even know how to speak. I've seen these kinds of people when I went east in the past. On the deserted islands of the Eastern Sea, there are barbarian tribes that cannot be reasoned with. They are like beasts and cannot be considered humans. This child is right. Going west is indeed difficult. I, old son, have to kill hundreds and thousands of people. I can't bear to kill those barbarians. And master, you are not willing to reveal your supernatural powers. What should I do?" Chunong smiled. "It is precisely the barbarians that need to be enlightened by Master and Laozi. Our journey is not only to go to Sindhu to discuss the Tao with R'lyeh, but also to spread the seeds of civilization and enlighten the Buddha. Therefore, this journey to the West is not to visit, teach, or teach that chieftain, but to fight, conquer, slaughter, and preach. Wherever there are demons, there will be you, the heavens' equal demon great emperor. I know that the road to the West is filled with humans and demons. These barbarians, Rongdi, savages, and demons live together, so you will be the one to kill your way through. This journey to the Western heaven is to let the tribes that believe in my teachings prosper. To conquer those even more barbaric Rongdi, it is to let them raise their weapons and kill each other until blood flows." After Chenong finished, he muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "However, that Itzu tribe is slightly different. It has been close to China for a long time and was a vassal state during the time of Emperor Mu. Later on, they rebelled, but they also learned some principles from China and had laws. They are not a completely barbarian tribe, but they have sprouted the seeds of civilization. Although they're shamans and shamans who sacrifice the blood of demons and demons, they are different from those half-demon, half-human Rongdi. Monkey King, it won't be good for you to make a move. After 100 years, this place will belong to Qin. It cannot be mixed with the Rombi demons. Chapter 883. That young man cupped his hands and replied, "In this cold weather, who dares to go to Shirome? Everyone should wait until the snow melts in spring." The Monkey King had already expected this and said, "I won't hide it from little brother. Us four master and disciples are traveling to the west, and the journey is very long. We will reach the western barbarians, and if we don't dare to travel, we won't be able to finish it even after 70 or 80 years. The young man couldn't bear to see them send themselves to their deaths and refused to say anything. Finally, the Monkey King said with a smile, "Then does little brother know someone who is familiar with Qin and the righteous canal and can be our guide? There will be a way to the righteous canal in the west. This is a method. If someone says yes, the righteous canal, King admires the culture of the Central Plains and might not make things difficult for the two of you." The young man said, "But if you go to the righteous canal, you will still have a chance of survival. After all, the righteous canal king was once friendly with our Xia, but you must not go west. The Guifang people over there live with demons and ghosts and are very evil. They eat people's livers and are like ghosts. Moreover, the old righteous canal king favored people from the Central Plains. Later on the Jin countries, Yu won the trust of the righteous canal king and was sent to our country. The previous king saw that Yu was familiar with the customs of the righteous canal and used a large sum of money to lure him and the righteous canal king, making Yu join our old Qin instead. After that, Yu became a general and won many battles, helping the country 12 times and opening up 1,000 miles of land. The current righteous canal king is the old king's son, and because of this, he is very wary of the people of the Central Plains. If you want to gain his trust and send troops to protect you on your journey to the west and not be harmed by those small tribes, there will be many difficulties." The Monkey King nodded and said, Yu, us master and disciples are not afraid of any difficulties. We are only afraid of wasting time on the road and not being able to travel. As long as we are on the road, no matter how many difficulties there are, I, old son, will be able to deal with them. If you insist on this, then follow me. We often go to the canal to trade, so we know many people who are familiar with the canal. Us Qin people are naturally not willing to die with you, but there are many soldiers here that were left behind when the canal was divided. They are greedy and do not care about their lives, so if you bribe them with money, they will definitely be willing." The young man said, "Only those mixed hounds do not have any integrity and are very greedy. I'm afraid that they will collude with the righteous canal's war hounds to harm you. If they come back alone with the goods, I will kill that person. Consider it as revenge for you." Of course, the Monkey King would not be harmed by small Qin war hounds, but he still accepted his request and cupped his hands in thanks. That young man's family was very large. Just the herd of cattle and horses alone numbered over 1,000. His first words were to kill the war hounds to avenge them. So his family must be a Qin merchant. He gave the whip to the shepherd and brought Chinong and the others to his home. The young man's family was in the livestock business, as well as some goods from various countries. The merchants of this time could not compare to the future. They could truly travel the world. This was because there were many wars between countries, so the flow of goods was not smooth. There was a large price difference between high and low, but because the countries were opposing each other, there was a large risk in trading. Therefore, a true merchant would be like a small army every time they went on a business trip. They would guard against thousands of bandits while also guarding against the armies of various countries. The young man's father was even more so. He was in the cattle and horses business, so he had several large herds of cattle and horses. How could these beasts be placed in one place? Every day, he would chase after the water and distribute the cattle to different pastures. At a fixed time, he would go to various places to sell them. Therefore, he would always bring his entire fortune with him at all times. The young man's home was a market where the caravan had set up camp. Light sheds were scattered around the market, and in the center was the young man's father. There was a caravan that was tightly arranged. Around them were the scattered merchants who were trying to make a living. Most of them were from the Hu tribe. Most of the Qin people were wealthy and did not want to live a vagrant life. Only the Hu tribe left from the righteous canal in the past could adapt to this kind of life. Chunong was currently riding on a bronze ox carriage. The strong plate-horned green ox was not much, but the bronze used for the carriage was very rare. At this time, the countries could already smelt iron, but in China, the taste of iron was rather poor. The smelting technology had not developed to that level, so the quality of pig iron was extremely poor. It was known as bad metal, while bronze was known as good metal. It was worth a lot. Chunong was riding on a bronze carriage, and his extravagance was comparable to riding on a golden carriage in the future. Only the nobility of a large country could be so extravagant. Thinking about the spring and autumn hegemon, he was only known as the Kingdom of Thousand Chariots. His chariot did not even use a third of the bronze that Chunong was riding on. Chunong's extravagance as he entered the camp. The young man's father heard about it and came out to welcome him. He saw a stout official with an enviable fat reserve. Chunong saw that the warhound women were looking at the official with admiration and admiration. Thinking about it, in the eyes of the people now, the stout official had a double chin, a big belly, and was no less than the vest muscles and mermaid lines of the future. This fat official, in the eyes of the present, could be said to be a Pan and Song Yu, a model of a tyrant who had both beauty and wealth. The stout middle-aged man was full of smiles as he welcomed them. The two doctors have come from afar, but I have been impolite and was unable to send someone to welcome you. I have already ordered people to prepare a banquet to welcome the two doctors. Chunong declined with a smile. Gentleman Zhu, don't be anxious. I think I have a flaw in my divination, and there are always no good banquets. The few times I have attended banquets, I have hindered the host. Either my blood splattered on the spot, or my soul was lost. I have received your kind invitation. How could I have hindered you? Let's just have a simple reception. We still need a gentleman's help on our journey to the west. Hearing him decline like this, some people were dissatisfied. A shrewd-looking steward following behind Zhu Dehao laughed. I wonder what kind of hindrance it is? Asking a guest to reject my host's face? She had wronged Chunong. He was doing this out of good intentions. Chunong silently counted. The number of times he had attended banquets was really not many. It was just a few times when he was on Mount Shu, a birthday, or a gathering. It was just that the outcome was not very good. The birthday person lost his own life. The gathering fought with him on the spot, be it the host, the guest, the manservant, or the chef, basically all died in the end. Counting carefully, the hosts and guests of those banquets were basically all killed by him. There are also people like Zhu Dehao who treated him like this. The king of the Merman Sea Kingdom seemed to have been killed by the prince. As for the guests, he was killed on the spot. And in this life, there was also one who invited him to a banquet, the one who posted the invitation, the one who invited him. And now they were suffering in the 18 levels of hell, becoming a pair of brothers in hardship. Chunong could only sigh. The last time King Qin invited me, this brute disciple of mine caused a ruckus and fought his way out of the royal court, only scaring my queen mother. I wonder if she has calmed down a little. Zhu Dehao's face twitched. His heart was inexplicably shocked. He thought to himself, bitter. How did I provoke this group of evil stars to come uninvited? Chapter 884. Zhu Dehao's heart was perturbed. After settling Chunong and the other three down, and after asking about their intentions, he used the excuse of finding a guide for them to go to Yichu country and sneaked into an inconspicuous little tent in the camp of the caravan. This little tent looked inconspicuous, but upon closer inspection, it was an extremely heavily guarded position in the camp, and was what Zhu Dehao relied on to survive. Zhu Dehao's fat body stealthily entered the tent. There was a small altar inside with blood food creams under it. There was a ferocious god statue with a green face and fangs, but it had the style of the warhound's barbarians. Merchant Zhu Dehao pushed a mountain of gold and knelt down like a jade pillar. He picked up an incense stick and silently prayed. Not long later, a trace of black smoke came from the statue on the altar, and a strange voice came from inside. Zhu Qishu, I am currently in closed-door cultivation. I've told you that you can't disturb me if there is nothing important. Every year during the summer and autumn, you've asked me to guard you, and protect you from all directions, which has already dragged down my cultivation. Seeing that you've always worshipped me and never become tired, as well as the kindness of saving me in the past, I haven't broken my promise. Now, even when I am in closed-door cultivation during the winter, you still want to disturb me. Don't you know that my original body's habits haven't disappeared, and breaking my closed-door cultivation during the winter will greatly damage my spirit? Why did you light the incense stick to summon me? Zhu Qishu was indeed a famous merchant of the Qin state. He made a prompt decision and said, "It is an unforgivable sin to disturb elder immortals' cultivation. I am willing to offer 10 bulls as a token of my apology. I will eat the blood of a mortal." 10 bulls. The immortal on the other side did not have any resentment and said in a satisfied voice, "You are quite sincere, so I'll forgive your disrespect. But if you wanted to make a move, you'll need a man full of blood energy. It's not that I'm greedy, but coming out during the winter goes against my original body's habits, causing the yin flames to grow. I need a man full of blood energy to balance it." Zhu Haoshang thought to himself, "Luckily, there are those mixed beards that follow my caravan. These people are like weeds, there is no end to them. Those farmers work hard every day and have long been drained of qi and blood. They might not be able to satisfy the snake demon's appetite. On the other hand, those mixed beards grow naturally and grow fat. I can just randomly pick one and steal it, and it will satisfy the demon's appetite. There are more than a few hundred people who follow my caravan. They are lazy and greedy by nature. They hate hard work and are greedy for money, but they are unwilling to work hard on the land. They follow my caravan and travel here and there, doing some businesses that have no capital or swindling people. They feel that this kind of life is how they should live. Over the years, many of them have gathered. The more of these people there are, the more trouble there will be. If I allow them to expand their influence, they might even set their sights on me and become vicious. In the past few years, I've killed a lot of them in secret. I didn't expect that there would be people joining them from time to time. They've already become powerful. Don't mention one healthy man. Even if it's 100, I'm willing to give it to you. It's just that I can't let this monster have a bigger appetite and ask for more offerings in the future. AI. When I was young, I didn't know how to train monsters. I saved this snake spirit from the hands of the warhound shamans and obtained its help. Only then was I able to earn this large family business. At that time, I would easily need 8 to 10 bulls as offerings, raising this monster's appetite. Now, a single offering cost me 50 bulls and horses. I've wasted a lot of my capital. Zhu Deheo's heart was filled with sorrow. He was not familiar with business when he was young, so he couldn't lower the cost. His mouth did not stop as he clearly told the news of Chunang's group. He knew that this snake demon was his family's backer, so he needed to rely on it to deal with those with supernatural powers. Therefore, he spoke very clearly. He even had vague information about what happened in the Qin court and what happened to Fengshi. The snake demon thought for a moment and said, "This group of people might have powerful cultivators. I've been in seclusion for the past few days, not only because of my nature, but also because of some extremely important news. A few months ago, in the land of Qin, there was a sudden rise of 100,000 mountains. This matter was extremely terrifying, and it might be related to the celestial affairs of the upper realms heaven court. We are just a small demon in the human world. How would we dare to get involved? Even if we were to be involved, we would be in danger." After a few days, there was a rain of blood from the sky. Countless broken pieces of celestial weapons and celestial corpses fell from the sky. Some greedy monsters went to search for the celestial flesh. Eating a bite of the celestial's flesh would be of great help. Those broken pieces of celestial weapons were even more priceless. At that time, I was not optimistic about it. How could ants like us stand by and watch the fight between the big shots of the upper realm? As expected, all of a sudden, the 100,000 mountains disappeared. Those fellows whose hearts were covered with lard also disappeared. After a few months, the demons of the world sent a message saying that the demon emperor was born and gathered the demons to attack the southern heavenly gate. I don't know how these strange incidents are connected, but the shadow behind them is probably huge. There must be an earth-shattering conspiracy that involves the entire three realms. At the Southern Heaven's Gate meeting, there were a few demon kings and demons who were extremely ferocious among the fiendish demons, but there was no news of them after that. This kind of terrifying matter, if you are even slightly involved, it will be a great danger. Zhu Qishu, when I was in trouble in the past, I received your help and was not refined into a demonic treasure by the Warhound's great shaman. Afterwards, I protected you in every way possible, helping you to travel safely. But during this period of time, you better be careful. If you get into some terrifying trouble, I can only reluctantly part with you. After all, no matter how big the favor is, it is not as important as my own life. If you're only doing some small things like slaughtering the Warhound's tribes and capturing their people, it is fine. I will suppress my own fire and come out to help you. But if you want to deal with those unknown people and kill them for their goods, don't blame me for not agreeing. This world is truly dangerous. It is not something a muddle-headed little demon like me can mess with. Zhu Qishu and the great merchant silently remembered these secrets of the immortals after hearing them. For merchants like them, every piece of information could be of great use in the future, not to mention matters involving the immortals. Even if they did not understand the meaning of it now, they could have an opportunity in the future. A demon with a heart of cultivation like the snake demon only wanted to escape the calamity and stay away from the huge black hand that encompassed the entire three realms. But a businessman like Zhu Qishu was different. He only thought about how to use the information and even took great risks to get involved in it to fight for immeasurable benefits. Managing a land and farming is only 10 times the profit. Selling strange things and controlling the weight is only 100 times the profit. Even if it is pleasing the king and managing the country's politics, is only 1,000 times or 10,000 times the profit. But what about managing the immortals? The benefits are incalculable. Zhu Qishu did not show it on his face, but his heart was surging and he wished he could roar into the sky. If there's a chance to get involved in the dethronement of the immortals, with my ability, can I stir up trouble? Zhu Qishu placed his palm on the few pieces of cloth that recorded the details of the banquet in the Qin court. There were many pieces of information written on them, but they were already blurred. It was enough for Zhu Qishu to piece together an incomplete jigsaw. During the banquet of the Emperor of Qin, a divine monkey caused havoc in the Qin court. The necromancers went up the stage to cast spells and use the art of moving mountains. The 10,000 mountains outside Mount Zhongnan suddenly appeared. Then he heard from the snake demon that the corpses of the immortals and the rain of blood fell from the sky. It's the will of the heavens. Zhu Qishu sighed. If it wasn't for the will of the heavens, how could I have met these people? They must have a close connection with those strange things. They might even be the key figures in the conspiracy that the demon mentioned. If I miss this chance, where will I get another chance to gain immeasurable benefits? Even if there's a great risk, I absolutely can't miss it. Zhu Qishu made up his mind. Coming out of the small tent, he shouted to his left and right, "Someone, pass down my orders, prepare to break camp." I feel like old friends with the two virtuous sages, and I know that it will be difficult for them to go to the righteous canal country. So I will help them with all my strength, organize a caravan, and accompany them to the righteous canal. The faces of the stewards all changed as they quickly stopped him. "You can't. Master, it's almost winter. If we don't go to the grasslands to rest, countless cattle and sheep will freeze to death on the way. Moreover, if we meet with heavy snow and strong winds, the thousands of us will all die on the way. Even if we reach the righteous canal, those Warhounds people will already be starving. Isn't this like sheep entering a tiger's den?" Zhu Qishu coldly shouted. "I've already made my decision. Stop wasting my breath. Quickly prepare." Those managers had no other choice. Now was not the future, and the lives of the workers and managers in the caravan depended on the great merchant Zhu. There was no such thing as resigning. They could only leave with their last breath, looking at Chun'ong and the others who were resting on the side with hatred. They wondered if they had cast some kind of magic to confuse their master's mind and then gave such an absurd order. Chapter 885. Even Chenong did not expect merchant Zhu to be so decisive. Their caravan was used to roaming around, so they packed up very quickly. Their orders were neat and uniform, just like an army. If they really fought, apart from the big countries like Qin, Lu, Chu, and Jin, half of the smaller countries and old states would not be a match for this caravan. That big merchant Zhu also gathered his family's capable and good-for-nothing descendants and instructed, I want to do a big business to earn riches and honor that will overflow the sky. Only, there are many obscure, dangerous, uncertain areas in the future. Therefore, I have gathered all of you here and let you choose. If you're willing to go with me, then go pack your luggage. If not, then you can leave with nothing and stay here. The descendants of the great merchant Zhu were in an uproar. When most of them were sensible, the great merchant Zhu had already built up such a large family business and operated it steadily. Therefore, he had never encountered such a setback. How could he have imagined that he would encounter such a difficult choice? Immediately, many of them begged Zhu Qishu to give up on such an appalling decision. But how could Zhu Qishu be swayed by these ordinary descendants? He only sneered, and under his pressure, some began to waver. One of his favorite grandchildren pleaded, Old ancestor, we can't stop you if you want to do a big business, but you have to leave some family business for our descendants to live in peace. Give us a few herds of cows and horses, and we can manage it ourselves. How can we be kicked out empty-handed? As soon as he said this, many people agreed. Unexpectedly, merchant Zhu only sneered and said, These cows and horses are the capital of my business. Even this is not enough, so how can I waste them on you? I can write a few letters to you, so that you can make use of the connections I have accumulated. Other than that, every blade of grass and every tree, even a stalk of fodder, is my capital. Whoever dares to touch it will be punished according to the family law. A few of his good-for-nothing sons were dumbfounded. Some of them who knew the inside story called out, Father, moving the cattle to the righteous canal, who knows how many will freeze and starve to death on the way? Could it be that you would rather the cattle and horses freeze and starve to death than leave them for your descendants? Zhu Qishu smiled and said, Those that freeze and starve to death on the way are the losses of my capital. Naturally, it has to be counted as capital. I can only think of ways to reduce the losses, but it is a necessary loss. What I left to you is not an investment, but a loss beyond the cost. It does not help the business I want to do in the slightest. When doing business, every bit of capital must be used on the blade. Now that I'm taking such a huge risk to do something big, I naturally have to exchange all my wealth for capital. How could I waste it on useless things? After saying that, no matter how much his sons and grandsons begged, Zhu Qishu's heart was as hard as stone. His eldest son, who had been with him the longest, bowed deeply to him and said, I know that Father's trip this time will be dangerous. Father is willing to bet his wife and children's business, to fight for riches and honor, but I am not willing to give up everything for this. Since that is the case, why not entrust me with the property that you cannot take with you and the connections that you have managed for decades? I will definitely be here to support you. Who knows? Maybe I will be of use to that big business. Zhu Qishu looked at his eldest son's wrinkled and calm eyes. He suddenly smiled and said, You are the most like me. He entrusted the property that he could not settle down for the time being to his eldest son and the connections that he had managed for decades. In this way, this unremarkable eldest son inherited 30 to 40% of the Duke's wealth. Zhu Qishu summoned all his sons and grandsons and divided the property, leaving only the youngest to accompany Chenong and the others. This was because the Duke had long regarded this youngest son as an important capital for this business. Because of his words in front of Chenong, the other sons and grandsons still had the chance to back out, but this son did not even have the chance to get off the boat. In addition, he performed another spell to invite the snake demon over. He said, I have disturbed Elder Immortal this time because there's a big business to be done in Itsu country. I hope Elder Immortal can be my guarantor. After this business is completed, I am willing to offer half of my wealth. The snake demon said, You should know that my cultivation is not high enough to get rid of my nature, so I have to sleep and meditate during the winter. It's fine to temporarily disturb me, but it will only cause the Yin fire to rise and damage my true qi. If I go against my nature, I will not be able to meditate for the entire winter, and it will greatly damage my cultivation and spirit. Although I owe you a great debt of gratitude, I have protected you for decades. This time, I've already repaid my kindness by damaging my cultivation for you. From now on, we will no longer be fated. I am willing to exchange my previous kindness for elder immortals' help this time, Zhu Qishu said calmly. A layer of black gas floated above the god statue that the snake demon was attached to, dragging a jade talisman into Zhu Qishu's hand. The snake demon said, "If you have an invitation, use this talisman to inform me. I will follow you for dozens of miles. Those 4 guests have a great background. It is not convenient for me to appear in front of them." Zhu Qishu kowtowed and thanked him, then took the jade talisman and left without saying a word. When he was far away, the snake demon's faint sigh came from the small tent. "Zhu Qishu, how could I not know your plan? Those 4 people are indeed related to the Black Hand that schemed against the 3 realms and shook the Heaven Court, just as you thought. If I were you, I would also risk my life to cultivate and become an immortal. How can I hope to live without purpose? I don't lack the courage to advance and fight to the death. But I already have a way to avoid the 3 disasters, and I have the confidence to live forever. How can I throw my life into such a dangerous and unpredictable whirlpool? But I can't give up this opportunity. I can only maintain a heart of treading on thin ice and watch from outside this whirlpool, throwing a thread into it. With this bit of connection, I will carefully search for the opportunity. If something goes wrong, I will break this thread and escape. Zhu Qishu, you are this thread." Zhu Deheo was very good at managing his family. In less than half a day, the caravan had already packed up and was ready to depart. No one knew what Zhu Deheo did, but although everyone in the caravan was complaining, no one dared to retreat or escape. Even more than half of the barbarians who followed the caravan followed. When they set off, the weather was not good, and it was already snowing for the 2nd time. Chun Ong sat on the bronze chariot, and a brazier was raised in the middle of the chariot frame. Through the fire in the chariot, the whole chariot frame was warm. Chun Ong and the others were all people with great divine power, so they did not need such things. They just had an agreement with Buddha not to use their divine power. Chapter 886. Merchant Zhu wanted to curry favor with Chun Ong and the others, rushing the caravan. In just 2 days, they had passed through the pass that Qin had set up at the border of the Yi River country. After exiting the pass, the world suddenly became vast and boundless. White grass covered the ground, and snow covered the ground, covering it. The path that the caravan had taken had already been covered in snow, making it hard for people to tell if they were on the right path or not. The world was a vast expanse of whiteness with no direction. The mountains on the horizon rose and fell, winding like a dragon. The caravan trudged through the snowy plains, and the snow that covered their ankles made it even harder for them to identify the path. The people walking at the back could only follow the footsteps of the people in front. The several thousand people in the caravan melted the snow, and the road became muddy. Stepping on the melted snow, even if one had good felt boots, they would still be soaked. On the road, there were already several dozen people who were frostbitten. It was also a good thing that Merchant Zhu was very talented. He divided the several thousand people into several groups, and had a few capable fellows as the vanguard to find the right path. There was also a vanguard that left half a day in advance, looking for a place with a water source, finding a grassland, and setting up a camp. The middle group drove the horses and cows for half a day before stopping to practice for 2 hours. There was also the rear group that took care of the old, weak, and frostbitten people. As for Chin Ang's group and Merchant Zhu, they were in the last group of the middle group. Although the Monkey King came from the East Sea's Ao Lai country to the Central Plains, he had seen a lot of things, but he had only seen the wonders of the sea. He had wandered through many countries, but he had never come to the northwest plateau of the Nanzhan state. In this 1,000-mile wilderness, There are no signs of human habitation. It was a bit strange. The caravan passed by many warhounds' camps, but they were all abandoned. That youth surnamed Zhu smiled as he introduced the customs of the Shirong, who are very different from our central plains. They live as nomads and chase water plants. This kind of camp is only used in spring and summer every year, and they have to prepare to migrate in autumn. They should have already migrated to the south by now. But the warhounds have also learned farming from our central plains. Their capital has a righteous canal and also has farmland, so they can support the nobles in the city and not be nomadic. We'll be able to see it in half a month. The Monkey King laughed. On my way here, I've seen a few places with fertile soil and abundant water sources. The people of Ichu would rather grow grass than farm. I'm sure there's a reason for that. The youth surnamed Zhu proudly said, "That's natural. When they plow the land, won't they provoke us old Qin people to come and rob them? In the past, when Bailey Shi conquered the 12 cities of the Righteous Canal, they were supported by farming. That Righteous Canal's warhounds people. After that, they also understood the logic of a man's wealth becoming a crime. So what if the Hu gave up farming and went to pasture? This good land will belong to us Qin people sooner or later." The youth was very proud of this. He was very respectful to old man Chenong and often asked him for advice. He was also very polite to Yi Shi, but in front of the Monkey King, he did not show any respect. He was not very respectful, but because of this, he was able to talk to the Monkey King more easily. The reason for this, the Monkey King had already seen through it. It was most likely that this person had a very strong view of the barbarians in his heart. Towards people like Chenong, old man Ishi, and people like him, he was naturally very respectful. As for people like the Monkey King who were from the hairy people country, he could not help but look down on them, so he was much more casual. Moreover, old man Chenong was a person who had a very deep understanding of all things. Whenever he spoke, his words would be filled with true truths. As for Yin Shi, he learned the true words of the Tao Te and was an important minister of the Zhou dynasty. He came from a scholarly background, so his words were very refined. It was completely different from the wild and unbridled temperament of the Monkey King. In the eyes of the youth surnamed Zhu, the Monkey King was someone who studied the structure of space every day, as well as the transformation of energy into matter. This kind of craftsman was probably just an errand boy of old man Chenong, a servant that he had raised, but he did not receive the true teachings. This youth did not know what he had missed. After walking like this for 10 days, half of the cows and horses froze to death, and the corpses were scattered all over the road before they could see signs of people. When the caravan set up camp, they found people spying on them several times. The youth picked up his bow and rode his horse, leading his retainers to chase them away. Not long later, he came back with a cold face. The youth held his bow and proudly said, "It was those warhounds tribe barbarians spying on us. I killed a few of them, and they ran away in all directions. Those barbarians, if it wasn't for father not wanting to cause trouble, I would have sent my retainers that are good at tracking to their tribe, and then lead my troops to kill them all. We can also find a camp to rest in, and perhaps we can even steal some cows and sheep to make up for our losses on the road." The Monkey King secretly said, "This brat is quite interesting, but he doesn't think highly of me. Is it because I call myself a hairy person? If he knew that I'm not even a hairy person and am just a monkey, I wonder what kind of face he would have." The youth saw that the Monkey King was writing those symbols that he could not understand, and said with a smile, "Are you learning those mathematics and physics again? What kind of geniuses are the two teachers? Every word they say is inherited from the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. They are the laws of every country. You're lucky enough to be a disciple of your teacher, but you don't want to learn the proper ways of governing a country. Instead, you bury your head in these strange symbols every day. Are you really neglecting your roots and pursuing trifles? It's because you know that you have a lowly status that you don't dare to ask your teacher. Mr. Wenshur is of the same generation as you, and he was taught this sacred text of Tao by father's teacher. I've heard a bit of it from him, and it's extremely profound, but you don't ask him about it. You're really wasting a great opportunity. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard the youth's words. He had no choice but to explain. Senior Monkey King seeks the laws of heaven and earth and understands all living things. He is well versed in the grand Tao passed down by the two teachers. His knowledge is only higher than mine, and he can be called a celestial being. You've already fallen in the lower class by looking down on him like this. You can't say such things again. The youth thought that Ishi was only saying these words to save face for the sake of Monkey King, so he merely chuckled and didn't take it to heart. He thought to himself, this Monkey King is only a hairy person after all. Look at how he's so obsessed with mathematics and math. How much of their knowledge could he possibly have learned? I'm afraid he's not even as good as me. I've been coming here every day to listen to the two teachers discuss the Tao, but aside from those cryptic mantras, I really don't understand anything else. Things like how to use joint probability density to represent two-dimensional random variables and how to calculate the distribution of discrete probability clouds in space. How to use Chebyshev's inequality to calculate the convergence of the probability clouds in the distribution of vital energy is really beyond my comprehension. As for Tao, politics, economics, and so on, they've all enlightened me, and I feel like I'm making great progress. Chapter 887. That youth's surnamed Jew did not know that the movement of the several thousand people of the caravan not only alerted the righteous canal country's warhounds, it also alerted some things that were not human. Several dozen miles away, a black man wrapped in black wind suddenly twitched his nose and said in a doubtful voice, "Why is there the smell of so many people? Did that old thing lie to me?" He secretly called the righteous canal country's troops to ambush me. As the black wind rolled over, there were several dozen ghost-like figures twisting in the wind, whistling as they flew up and down. There were also several demons. Some of them had the faces of beasts, looking very fierce, and some even had the appearance of wild beasts. They were all jackals, tigers, leopards, vicious monsters. With the black man as the leader, they surrounded a warhounds tribe. The warhound tribe had several hundred people, but there were only 100 strong men in the tribe. The rest were all old and weak women in ragged clothes. There were women and children, but there were very few old people. This was because the warhound tribe was not like the Central Plains. They did not have many filial piety rules. The old people that could not work in order to save food would starve to death. Then their relatives would gather firewood and burn it, smoking it to death. When some people saw the horde of demons and ghosts surrounding the tribe, they felt despair. They wept or clenched the crude weapons in their hands. Those so-called weapons were nothing more than stone spears and mulberry skin arrows used for hunting. It was difficult for them to pierce through the fur of the wolves on the grasslands, much less these well-armed demons who were 10 times more ferocious and elite than them. The tribe chief was a middle-aged man. He kept shouting in the Hu language, but when he saw the black wind blowing over, he heard the pitiful cries of the chief from inside. Then there was no more sound. Only the sound of bones being chewed could be heard. There were also loud shouts from inside. "Little ones, kill them for me. Don't kill them all. Leave some for later and slowly eat in the cave. Kill 2 and leave 1 alive. Eat half fresh, eat half pickled, and keep the last half for later." The Monkey King on the bronze chariot suddenly looked into the distance and said to Chin Ong in a low voice, "Master, there's demonic energy in front of us. Do you want them to stop for now?" The scouting team in front also sensed that something was wrong. They sent someone to report, "Master, there are traces of smoke in front." The scouts heard screams of burning and murder. "Please send someone to deal with it." Merchant Zhu Daheo's expression changed, and he exclaimed, "Not good. I'm afraid we've encountered the 3 pests." The Monkey King asked curiously, "What are these 3 pests? Why did the owner's expression change so much?" Merchant Zhu gave orders to a group of skilled retainers to bring the armored guards of the caravan. The workers lined up and mounted their horses before explaining to the Monkey King. "Guest does not know, but the people of the righteous canal country are very hard. Those small warhounds tribes are in danger of being exterminated because of the 3 pests. The first is the kingdom's nobles, the second is the shamans, and the third is the ogres. If a normal tribe meets one of them, their entire tribe will be in danger of being exterminated. The righteous Canal Country's nobles are tyrannical and cruel, taking pleasure in killing people. They're cruel to the small tribes, not treating them as their own people at all. Other than the large tribes named after the righteous canal, the other warhounds people are the slaves and livestock of the righteous Canal Country's nobles. Every winter, the righteous Canal Country's nobles will bring their troops to hunt in the country. During the winter, all beasts will disappear. So what can they hunt? Other than robbing the bear's nest, they will find those small tribes, capturing their people and livestock, and killing their warriors. This will weaken the resistance of those small tribes and allow them to obtain slaves. Therefore, the righteous Canal Country's king has not stopped them. But if they meet the righteous Canal Country's nobles, they will only lose a few able-bodied people. If they meet those shamans, it will be even more troublesome. Those shamans, in order to create magic tools, they love to kill people as blood sacrifices. They take babies and women's skin and hearts to create magic tools. Those shamans have a large influence and control many of the righteous Canal Country's troops. Every time a great shaman needs a large-scale blood sacrifice or to create a powerful magic tool, it is the nightmare of those small tribes. Sorcerers love to kill and sacrifice children. If their minions find a small tribe, they will often kill all the children under the age of 14. If they see a tribe without children, they must have been harmed by sorcerers. The great merchant Zhu sighed with emotion. But although these two dangers are terrifying, they are far from being comparable to the third danger. If they meet a noble shaman, there is still a chance for the tribe to survive. At worst, they will just die. But if they meet a demon that comes down the mountain to eat people, then they will be consigned to eternal damnation. Not even a complete corpse will be left. The righteous Canal Country has a majestic mountain range to the north. Every winter, when there is a lack of food on the mountain, there will be demons coming down the mountain to eat people. That's why the righteous Canal Country doesn't care much about their own corpses. The dead will be cremated because they are afraid that the corpses will attract the demons. Chun Ong drove the carriage to the great merchant Zhu and said, "I wonder if the master can bring us along. The various things in the righteous Canal Country are very different from the Central Plains. I want to learn from them." The great merchant Zhu was afraid that this backer would not care. So why would he reject Chun Ang's request? The righteous Canal Country would be really dangerous after winter. If Chun Ong did not care, he could only beg his family's worshiper. But he did not know if that snake demon would be willing to protect the whole caravan. If they met a powerful demon, the snake demon would usually bring him and a few of his family members in retreat. He would not risk his life for his family business. Chun Ong did not care about his plans. He ordered the Monkey King to drive the carriage and follow the guards and guests towards the smoke and dust. The young man with the bow and arrows also rode to the side and said loudly, "Two doctors, please let me protect you from the side, in case the battlefield is silent and you get hurt by the weapons." He then saw the Monkey King scratching his ears and cheeks, thinking hard about the difficult homework that Chun Ong had given him. The young man was a little angry. He turned his horse and ran away. He asked for a weapon from his guest and threw it on the bronze ox carriage. He said to the Monkey King, "You hairy man, you are really ignorant. The two doctors are priceless. Now that they are in danger, you are not only not protecting them, but also acting like a fool. You are really stupid." The Monkey King held the weapon in his hand and did not argue with him. He rode the ox behind Zhu Deheo's caravan. With the people on this side riding horses, they traveled several dozen miles in an instant. They could faintly see the Warhounds tribe's winter camp in front of them. Seeing this tragedy, even if the young man was a racist, his face turned pale with fright. In that small village, there were corpses piled up on the ground. Several dozen demons were busy cutting open people's stomachs and hearts, chopping up the corpses and presenting the heads to their leaders. The remaining limbs and flesh were eaten by the demons themselves. Hearing the sound of meat being eaten, it was like a tiger eating a lamb. Each demon opened their bloody mouths, and a human leg was eaten in an instant. The young man tightly held onto the bow in his hand, not knowing what to do. The horrendous sight of the demons eating humans almost scared the henchmen of the caravan to death. Even though the people of Old Sheen had many brave warriors, the people of Middle-earth were protected by the immortals of the heavenly court. They had never seen such a ferocious and bloody scene. The weird-looking demons and ghosts made people's legs turn to jelly. Hence, the group of dozens of people made some noise and attracted the attention of the Demon King. The Monster King rode the black wind and charged in front of Zhu Deheo. It was lucky that he could keep a straight face and remain calm. He quickly shouted, "Great King, please wait. We are merchants from the Central Plains and have no intention of disturbing the Great King's feast. We are willing to offer over 100 oxen and horses for the Great King to enjoy. We are the immortal Great King's subordinates, collecting rare things for him. We hope the Great King will give us some face. We will be friends in the future." That black man stopped the wind and floated a foot above the black fog as he shouted, "I am the Een Mountain ruler from the nearby mountains. Who do you think you are, relying on that shameless snake behind you? You dare to discuss conditions with me. Even if it comes personally, it will depend on whether I am willing to give it face." Een Mountain ruler swept his gaze around and saw the Monkey King. His eyes lit up and he said, "I'm sick of those oxen and horses' mouths. I've never eaten a monkey raised by humans who learned to dress like humans. I wonder how it tastes compared to wild ones." Een Mountain ruler rode the violent wind and reached out to take it from the Monkey King. He said, "I'll give face to that fellow Taoist I've never seen before. I'll take 1 out of 2 of the people here and only eat half. I'll chew on a monkey first." Chapter 888. The youth only had a glimmer of hope and shouted, "He's a hairy southern man, not a monkey." He was hoping that the demon would realize that his recipe was wrong and stop to think about what special way to eat hairy men was. Inshan Jun only chuckled. "What's the big deal if he's a hairy man or a monkey? You're young and strong, so you must be tender and chewy. I'm drooling just looking at you. I'll chew on you too." Obviously, Inshan Jun didn't think that a monkey with no demonic chi at all would be difficult to deal with. It wouldn't take much effort even if he took down the brat beside him. The youngster felt a gust of fishy wind blowing on his face, and his heart was filled with despair. He closed his eyes and waited for death, but he heard Chenong say, "Goku, have you finished the homework I arranged last time to use Chibu Chef's inequality to find the probability cloud convergence value of vitality and derive the 7 special excited states of vitality?" Monkey King replied, "Master, I've already done it. Look." Inshan Jun's large hand was wrapped in the black wind and was about to sweep up Monkey King when he saw that the short monkey was completely motionless in the black wind. He could even open his eyes and look at him with bright eyes. Inshan Jun was shocked and grabbed at the top of Monkey King's head with his sharp claws. He was a ferocious tiger that had turned into a spirit, so he could control the black wind. The strange, ghostly figures in the wind were the starved ghosts left behind by his cannibalism. They entangled towards Monkey King and wanted to freeze him. However, Monkey King stretched out a monkey claw and gently scooped. This move was extremely wonderful. The countless mathematical symbols in Wukong's primordial spirit operated with each other, forcefully locking onto a convergent fixed value that had a special meaning on the mathematical probability cloud when the primordial chi was circulating. Inshan Jun suddenly felt his vision go black, as if he was pulled out from the entire world. His body, primordial spirit, demonic aura, all matter, and spirit were crushed and turned into surging primordial chi. The purest bit of black wind fiendish energy was stimulated to a special active state. It turned all the Yuan Chi that Een Mountain Lord had crushed into the purest bit of black wind fiendish energy and was held in Monkey King's palm. The Monkey King blew on his palm. Countless amounts of origin Chi surged over and poured into the black wind evil Chi. As the wind blew, a black dragon-like giant wind pillar blew towards the Warhound's village. The heaven and earth turned chaotic. When the evil poltergeist ghosts were blown by the black wind, their limbs and bones were blown away by the black wind. The poltergeist ghosts were even worse off. If they were touched by the black wind, They would fuse with the black wind and turn into evil chi. When the Monkey King retracted the black wind, baleful chi back into his palm, all he saw was a vast expanse of white. All the blood and filth had melted away. There were only the surviving poltergeists, the shocked warhounds people, and the guards and workers blinking their eyes, not knowing what had happened. Master, using Chibushev's inequality to find the convergence value of the probability cloud, you could deduce the special excited state of the origin chi. It will cause the origin chi to melt, purify, corrode, and other special physical properties. The formula is as follows. I've calculated the most special characteristic of the poltergeist black wind, evil chi's demonic chi. By activating its special excited state, I've melted the tiger demon into origin chi and displayed its special characteristics. What do you think of my homework? Chenong nodded his head in satisfaction and said, very good, only there's a bit of regret. You should have done a Fourier transformation on the black wind evil chi, changing the function of the origin chi into a physical form. This way, you wouldn't have to restrain the evil chi. Chenong said this as he pointed at the black wind evil chi in the Monkey King's hand. A spiritual light turned into a seed that absorbed the evil chi, growing a gourd vine. In an instant, a gourd flower bloomed, turning into a small black gourd. When the black gourd grew, the gourd vine withered, leaving behind a small gourd the size of a palm in the Monkey King's palm. This was the collapse of the black wind evil chi's origin chi function, turning it into a physical form. At this moment, the people who were at a loss finally regained their senses. However, they still felt like they were in a dream. How did the ferocious and terrifying monster disappear in a gust of black wind? Thinking back carefully, that gust of black wind seemed to have come from the palm of a hairy man with long hair on his face and a protruding mouth. That tiger demon Inshan was riding the black wind, shouting that he wanted to eat monkeys and humans. But in the blink of an eye, he was crushed to death by the monkey and absorbed into a gust of black wind. Then, with a blow, all the monsters on the ground died, and there was no need to collect their corpses. The young man who was the closest and heard the conversation between Chenong and the Monkey King the most clearly was even more dumbfounded. He felt like he was in a dream. He still remembered the time when he heard the two doctors discussing about Tao. They mentioned how to use the joint probability density to represent the two-dimensional random variable and find the distribution of the discrete probability cloud. How to use Chibushev's inequality to find the convergence of the probability cloud of origin chi. So it was a magical technique of the immortals, a magical technique. No wonder he couldn't make heads or tails of it. And that crazy, unbearable hairy man actually killed the monster that he thought was ferocious in one breath. The young man with the surname Zhu was a little scared. If Immortal Mao was the least bit impatient and blew a breath at him, he was afraid that not even his bones could be found. He was shocked and scared, but also a little surprised. When he came back to his senses, he hurriedly knelt in front of Chenong and said, Master, please take me in. I admire the magical techniques of the immortals. Please take pity on me and take me in as your disciple. Chenong smiled and said, Get up first. If you want to become my disciple, I still need to test you. If you really have the talent, then don't mention it. He then said to the Monkey King, Monkey King, give him a test on trigonometry and solid geometry. If he passes, give him a book on middle school mathematics and high school mathematics. Finally, give him my set of 5 years of college entrance examination, 3 years of simulation. Within 7 days, he has to finish the whole set. If his accuracy is over 70%, you will teach him to enter Tao and learn basic magical techniques to increase his intelligence. Then, teach him to learn high-energy physics and quantum mechanics. If he can create a quantum brain, he can become my disciple in name. In the future, there will be an examination, and you will be accepted as my disciple. The young man was confused by his words. He only saw that the Monkey King couldn't bear to look at him and handed him a test paper. The young man opened it, and his eyes were filled with mathematical symbols. When the young man saw those symbols, his heart naturally floated up, But even if I understand the meaning of each word, I still don't know what it means when I look at it together. The young man with the surname Zhu roared in his heart. Zhu Dehao Shang ran over with his forehead covered in sweat. He saw his youngest son kneeling on the ground with a gloomy face. His face was ashen, as if he had lost his confidence in life. He didn't know what had happened and apologized uneasily. "Immortals, my son is young and ignorant. Please forgive him for offending you." Wukong giggled and said, "How could I have offended him? He just said something stupid for a moment. Why would I bicker with him? You old man, you don't have to worry. If he wants to acknowledge my master as his master, there will be a test. Now that he is like this, he just feels that he is stupid and has lost all hope." Zhu Dehao Shang was relieved. Actually, he wasn't that worried about his son. He was more afraid that his son would offend the immortals and ruin the big business that he was plotting. As he walked closer, he heard his son mumbling softly, "Why is it mathematics? Why is mathematics so difficult? Why can hairy people learn it, but I can't even understand it?" The green bull used his tongue to roll up the tender grass under the snow and chewed it. He thought to himself, "Another young man who has been driven crazy by mathematics. Why doesn't he learn from me and let go of his schemes to be at ease and learn morality from the old lord? Let go, let go." If the schemes are in the heart, then the pure white will be unprepared. If the pure white is unprepared, then the life of the gods will be uncertain. The life of the gods is uncertain, and the Tao will not contain it. Let go of the schemes, and the pure white will carry the Tao. The bull's tail gently swung and hit the pile of snow, causing snow to splatter everywhere. The guards of the caravan calmed down slightly and prepared to set off again. However, this time, they were very respectful to Chenong and his group. Their words were filled with awe. 3 days after the caravan left, a shaman with a face covered in paint, tattoos, and bone ornaments suddenly appeared in this abandoned camp. He squatted down and rubbed the dried blood under his feet. He asked curiously, "Where did that Yinshan Jun go?" "He made an agreement with me to burn down the tribes that obeyed the orders of the Yichu king. But he only destroyed this one place and disappeared without a trace. He chanted all kinds of shaman incantations and summoned a giant monster wolf from afar. He ordered, 'Go catch a few people nearby. If there is anyone with the smell of this place, don't eat them and bring them to me.' After a while, the shaman released the corpse of a warhound's man. He licked that person's brain and suddenly closed his eyes. His body trembled, and only after shivering did he open his eyes." Chapter 889. In the next few days, the caravan passed through the wilderness and arrived at the heart of the righteous canal country. The terrain was undulating and the weather was becoming warmer. The Chilean mountain range and the Gila mountain range in the distance were like a pair of giant arms that met at the righteous canal country's Six-Pan Mountain and Long Mountain range. They blocked the cold wind and snow from the north, creating a warm winter camp. The caravan was getting closer and closer to the righteous canal country's capital. Large fields appeared on both sides of the road, and there were many warhound slaves working in the fields. This kind of ancient farming scene that could only be seen during the slash-and-burn era attracted a bit of Chunang's interest. From the righteous canal country's warhounds' productivity, it was around the same level as the central continent's Shang and Zhou dynasties. Slaves were widely used, and after asking the youth surnamed Zhu, who was familiar with the righteous canal country, he learned that although the central continent called the Warhounds and Ghost Square people the same race, their internal divisions were very strong. Those Warhounds would only call themselves people of a certain tribe and would not think of themselves as Warhounds. Killing and enslaving each other was very common. The righteous canal country was ruled by the righteous canal country. The righteous canal country was made up of 6 tribes: Penglu, Yuji, Quangao, Yangju, Guiji, and Chuyen. Each tribe had the Quangao family as the royal family, and the 6 tribes had 20,000 soldiers and several 100,000 people. There were the Go Square Hounds War Hound Gu tribe, one of the most powerful tribes in the central continent. Other than these 6 tribes in the righteous canal country, there were also many small tribes. Some were the descendants of the Mastiff tribe that invaded the Zhou dynasty in the past, Some were the remnants of other Ghost Square tribes. Some were tribes that split off from the six tribes, and some were war hounds that grew in disorder. The Righteous Canal country did not actually have a fixed territory. Other than building several large cities like the Central Continent and allowing the six tribes to station themselves in the most fertile places, the other territories were all controlled by the Righteous Canal country's soldiers. The four tribes that paid tribute were the Righteous Canal country's territory. Therefore, the Righteous Canal people did not treat the War Hounds tribe as citizens. They were constantly on guard against them, suppressing them, capturing them as slaves, and stealing their goods and livestock. The Righteous Canal's three evils. Rather than saying it was a disaster, it would be better to say it was the Righteous Canal's six tribes' deliberate indulgence. On the way to Righteous Canal City, the caravan had met several nobles from the six tribes who had brought their own warriors out to plunder slaves. There were also sorcerers from the six tribes who had purposely forced the smaller tribes to sacrifice their children in preparation for the sorcerer's blood sacrifice sorcery to weaken their population potential. However, Chunong naturally would not understand such a humane competition for survival. If someone followed the ethics of the Dong, Shang divine continent, they would naturally think that this kind of cruel and bloody slaughter was an unpardonable crime. This was using one's heart to replace the heart of the heavens. When they met the civilized environment of the War Hounds and Ghost Square, there would be many conflicts, and they would even make a fool of themselves. Chunong looked at the development of civilization, so he naturally would not fall into this rut. The large caravan had met two attacks from the nobles of the six tribes. The first time was when the great merchant Zhu appeared and gave up some goods to make the nobles retreat. The other time, when both sides fought, the old Qin caravan was really tough. Everyone carried their weapons and dared to charge forward and kill. Chunong saw the old, weak, women, and children in the caravan being protected by the carriages, but they still dared to shoot the war hounds with their bows. Chunong also felt the Chinese martial style and personally shot 3 arrows, killing the leader of the war hounds. The mixed tribes around the caravan did not feel any sympathy for the death of the rabbit. Instead, they were the most pleased with their killing. Seeing how they often took the opportunity when the caravan was resting to plunder the surrounding small tribes, one could tell that this caravan did not believe in the morality of fair trade. If it was not because the great merchant Zhu had a big business to do and did not want to cause any trouble, perhaps they would also turn into horse bandits and plunder a few small tribes. When it was close to winter, the caravan finally arrived at River City. The great merchant Zhu had some connections here, and it was unknown how he dealt with it. But the Quan Gao tribe stationed in River City did not have any suspicions and brought them to the barbican outside of the city. Chunong could understand this. Looking at the style of the caravan, he could tell that the merchants of the various countries were not easy to deal with. If the people of Yitiu dared to bring them into the city without any precautions, maybe one day the great merchant Zhu would find an opportunity to burn down the city and return with their wealth. This was not the fear of the people of Yitiu, but there were many such incidents since ancient times. Huaxiao and the Central Plains had always erased the shameful things that they had done from history, but there was a country called Troy in the west, a Greek state. In their own epic, it was recorded that when the Trojan envoys went to another state, Sparta, to trade, they saw that the city of Sparta was unguarded, so they took the opportunity to plunder and even kidnap the queen of Sparta, Helen. Later on, the rumors spread that Helen was shockingly beautiful and attracted the Trojans to plunder her. It could be seen that the reputation of framing a femme fatale existed in every country, and it was a plot that the people loved to see. The caravan was busy for a long time, and the sky gradually darkened. Chunong saw that the caravan had settled down and called for the Monkey King. Monkey King, we are here to spread our teachings, but we want to meet the King of River so that we can get his help and head west. Go and ask the great merchant Zhu if he has any way to let us meet the King of River and ask for his help. The Monkey King received the order and went to find the great merchant Zhu and told him the purpose of his visit. Merchant Zhu said hesitantly, "It is not difficult to meet the monarch. The people of Yichu country are greedy for wealth. I will definitely be able to meet the monarch in the name of offering tribute. However, Gentleman's son, many of the nobles that I have befriended in Ichu City have secretly told me that the current Ichu country is treacherous and not a good place. Although the Quan Gao clan is the royal family of I River, they are barbarians and there is no loyalty between the king and his subjects. Today, I received news that there is a great shaman in the Chuyin clan, and he has mastered a powerful witchcraft that allows the warriors of the clan to fight bravely and be possessed by ghosts and gods. Now, the Chuyin clan's power has increased tremendously, and they have already gained the support of 3 out of the 6 tribes. They want to usurp the throne of the Quan Gao clan, and they will launch an attack in a few days. The tribes that are close to the Quan Gao clan have been faced with calamities, and there are often cases where the entire clan is wiped out. If we meet the king of I River at this time, we might be in danger. The Monkey King did not care about these, and he laughed. Master Zhu, I will not hide this from you. You might have noticed along the way, but the 4 of us are not mortals. No matter how treacherous the I River country is, what does it have to do with us? The great merchant Zhu complained. Gentleman's son is able to subdue that demon tiger, and he is a powerful being. Of course, he is not afraid of a mere I River king. But I am a mortal, and my family business is too big for me to handle. If the I River country is in chaos, Gentleman's son and the 2 physicians are not afraid, but our lives will be in danger. Please, Gentleman's son, spare us a way out. What a cunning old prostitute. You dare to risk your family business to follow us. So how can you be a coward? Goku laughed and said, You must have stretched out your hand to ask for benefits from us. How dare I? Zhu Dao smiled apologetically and said, Gentlemen may not know, but ever since the day of Dr. Chen's test, my good-for-nothing son of mine has been flipping the heavenly book over and over again. His mind is in a trance. Please enlighten him and wake him up. The Monkey King thought for a while and understood the great merchant Zhu's plan. He knew that his family could not get along well with Chunong and the others, and he could not say anything in front of them. Hence, he wanted to send his son out to build a relationship with them. This was known as son diplomacy. The great merchant Zhu understood that in order to build a relationship, it depended on whether the person was compatible or not. In front of Chunong, his son was nothing but a mortal. Why not send that foolish and courageous young man out to ask for guidance? After the Monkey King understood, he called the young man over and asked, How many marks have you completed on the homework that my master gave you? The young man naturally did not dare to be so presumptuous in front of Yukong. But when it came to the homework, his whole body collapsed, and he said with a pale face, Don't talk about a few marks. I haven't even understood the question on the first page. The Monkey King sighed. Then you are really not fated. Back then, when I was imparted by the patriarch, it only took me a day and a night. Although I didn't understand everything, I was able to answer most of the questions. Now that 20 years have passed, you still can't even understand the questions. Your aptitude is too low. I'm afraid you're not fated. The Monkey King really didn't lie to him. However, the Monkey King was a heavenly stone monkey and had the title of spiritual stone monkey. He was born with innate intelligence. Even if he didn't become a disciple of Chenong, he would still be able to cultivate top-tier spells under Patriarch Subhoodie. After becoming a disciple of Chenong, he would be able to form a quantum primordial spirit and gain boundless intelligence. With a single thought, he would be able to know everything under the heavens and create a virtual world. Chapter 890. Monkey King saw that the young man looked even more exhausted and laughed in his heart. Who said that Monkey King doesn't hold a grudge? On the left was a hairy barbarian, and on the right was a good-for-nothing. Although Goku only laughed, he still remembered it. But on second thought, Monkey King thought, although this young man is narrow-minded, he was loyal. When the Tiger Demon was being aggressive, he didn't abandon the 2 ancestors. Although the ancestors didn't care, as their disciple, I have to be grateful. Moreover, there are many twists and turns in the Itu country, and the 2 ancestors won't help. If I have to take care of all the troubles, it will be degrading. Just like the Tiger Demon, he was just a lowly demon king, and he was lucky enough to die in my hands. I feel bad for the immortals and gods. Why don't we get a coolie like him to come here and teach him some insignificant skills? Let him take those low-level demons so that I won't have to deal with him all the time. Do you think he's worthy of taking care of those little demons and shamans?" Monkey King thought of this and smiled. "Although you're not fated to learn the Tao, I can still teach you some unorthodox skills." However, seeing that Monkey King was going to teach him a lesson, the young man was energized. He asked anxiously, "What difficulties do you have? Please tell me. You didn't do anything for me, so how could I teach you this spell?" The young man was quick-witted. He immediately bowed and said, "Master, I am willing to do anything for you. I can go through water or fire, go up to heaven or down to hell." After that, he kowtowed 3 times. Monkey King saw that he was sensible and nodded. "I don't need you to do anything for me. However, my huge family business and millions of subordinates are all suppressed by my master. I have to do many small things for him. I don't need you to go up to heaven. As long as I, Monkey King, call out, which God will dare to not help? I don't need you to go down to hell either. The boss of that old man, King of Hell, also suffered under my rod. When I, old son, call out, hell will tremble." Although the youth didn't know how big the heavenly court and the underworld were, the boldness in Wukong's words still shook his mind and made him yearn for it. Originally, he was still somewhat unconvinced of his master, who was covered in long hair and 6 feet tall, but now his dissatisfaction disappeared. With great gratitude, he sincerely kowtowed and said, "Master." Monkey King took out a small gourd from his bosom. The young man looked familiar. It was the black gourd that the unlucky tiger demon transformed into. Monkey King held it in his hand and said to the young man, "That tiger demon didn't have much ability. It only had a mouthful of black wind baleful chi. It was considered pure. As the saying goes, clouds follow dragons and wind follows tigers. That tiger demon's baleful wind baleful chi fused with his innate divine art. It controlled the baleful chi of the ghosts and turned it into black wind baleful chi. 1 blow would melt flesh and bones, 2 blows would scatter the soul, and 3 blows would dim the sun and moon. Your patriarch, cult leader Chun, put that black wind baleful chi into this gourd. I will teach you the incantation later, and you will be able to use it freely." After that, Monkey King looked at the gourd and frowned. Although the baleful wind, baleful chi in this gourd is quite interesting, its power is only so. Think about that black wind, baleful chi. It is just a natural divine art of a tiger demon. How powerful can it be? Let me refine it for you and see if there are any other uses for it. He then stretched out his hand and changed the material structure of the gourd. He made the black wind, baleful chi fuse into the void inside the gourd, and it spun and died. He opened up 2 spaces inside the 2 gourds and fused them with a restrictive spell. In the back gourd, there was a set of fire restriction that could produce 3 types of true fire. In the front gourd, there was a set of poison restriction that could fuse with the wind fire baleful chi. As such, when he activated the gourd, he could use the wind to create fire, and the wind would help the fire. When he mixed in the poison, he would spit it out with the help of the black wind. Just a little bit of it would be able to burn the skin and flesh. It could even melt gold and iron. Even if it was a huge army, they would be burned to death by the black wind baleful chi. It was a vicious item that could burn cities and countries. The Monkey King still felt that it wasn't enough. In the quantum primordial spirit that he cultivated, he could deduce the design of many vicious weapons. He said, "That fire restriction chi is something without a source. It's not like the black wind baleful chi that was cultivated by the tiger demon's divine art. No matter how this cheap disciple of mine refines it, its power won't increase." Originally, it would have been best to use the supernatural power of the tiger demon to control the ghost, to refine a ghost commanding gourd and keep the ghost in the gourd. With the nourishment of the black wind evil chi, it can increase its power. In the future, the more ghosts I keep, the more powerful the gourd will be. There's almost no end to it. However, I don't want to refine such an item that forbids souls. It is a waste of the tiger demon's material. However, in the blueprint that my master left me, there were many mechanisms and weapons. Their power wasn't based on the magical treasures themselves, but on external objects. Why don't I borrow this concept and add a place that he put his heart into? The Monkey King calculated with his quantum primordial spirit. In an instant, he deduced many powerful fire materials and poison materials. He could also use carbon powder, sulfur, and saltpeter to refine gunpowder materials. He could roll them into the shape of a ball and store them at the back of the gourd. It would then release a black wind to attack the enemy. The countless gunpowder balls would explode at the same time like a thunderbolt. It would be enough to split mountains. Or he could use oil to make all kinds of gold and stone medicines to refine gunpowder materials. The poisonous fire that was spat out could stick close to the enemy's body and burn like maggots in the tarsal bones. It was the most vicious. There were also lead, mercury, and other metal poison materials. There were also all kinds of ingredients for poisonous gas, phosphorescence poison, and so on. There were a total of 540 types of fire and poison materials. When combined, the sequence was almost limitless. All of them could be placed into the gourd to increase the power of the black wind poisonous fire. The black wind gourd could be turned into a weapon that could be used for firing. Its power could be determined by the amount of poisonous fire materials added. The Monkey King calculated all these and finished modifying the gourd in his hand. He passed the fire and poison materials formulas to the young man. However, he felt a little emotional. Now that I've deduced my own magical treasures, I know how powerful my master is. The magical treasures that I've deduced are just weapons for self-defense. They're almost useless in the right path of Tao. As for the magical treasures that he passed down, it is extremely physical. Not only does it have unimaginable power for self-defense, it can also help one's Tao. It allows one to use magical treasures to study the mysteries of the heavenly Tao. The Taiji diagram can evolve yin and yang. The quantum primordial spirit can calculate everything. The Zhurong furnace can fission matter and synthesize vitality. I originally thought that the degenerate, indestructible body of infinite intelligence needed to cultivate countless kinds of powerful magical treasures and spells. That was why I was puzzled. Being proficient in thousands of spells is still not as good as cultivating one spell to the most powerful level. From the looks of it now, I know that the blueprint of refining the body into thousands of magical treasures and weapons is not used to attack the enemy. It is used for research and practice. The Zhurong furnace of nuclear vitality fusion and fission is the research equipment to study the fusion and fission of vitality. The three-phase material recombination Gonggong Bujo kidney is an important foundation to study the information of matter and energy. The light quantum entanglement intelligent terminal bionic brain is the core of all the equipment. It is responsible for deducing and calculating the obtained data. It is the foundation to deduce the laws of Tao. Chapter 891. After Wukong imparted the spell, he did not care how the young man practiced. He went to find a quiet tent to meditate and practice the various magic tools on the infinite intelligence, degenerate, indestructible body that Shenong had given him. Now that Wukong's cultivation base had advanced, he had to understand the 3,000 types of innate vitality and the 129,600 types of acquired vitality that were born from heaven and earth one by one. Only then could he achieve a myriad of transformations and create everything in this world. Originally, the Monkey King planned to collect chi of vitality and study its essence one by one, calculating the function equation of vitality. Now that he had broken through the barrier of knowledge and understood the source of the degenerate state Vajra body that he cultivated, he deduced that among the modification blueprints, there was a magical instrument called nuclear chi fusion Zhurong furnace. It was best at refining chi of vitality and studying the evolution process of innate chi of vitality into acquired chi of vitality. He immediately used his own body to refine a special alloy from his body. According to the blueprints given to him by Chenong, he made some changes and created a simple, abridged version. Then, he breathed in and out chi of vitality, using the high temperature and high pressure environment in the furnace to fuse chi of vitality, creating various kinds of chi of vitality that no longer existed in the three realms or only existed in extremely special environments. The design of the Zhu Rong furnace was extremely exquisite. It was modified by Chunong based on a few common scientific instruments according to the special laws of the three realms. It was a furnace magical instrument that could almost simulate all the extreme conditions during the creation of the world. Because the chi of the three realms mostly evolved during the process of the creation of the world, the essence of this magical instrument was to reproduce the extreme environment and process during the creation of the world. When the world was created, the three realms was like a furnace, yin and yang were the charcoal, and creation was the work. Therefore, it was also known as the Heaven and Earth Furnace or Zhurong Furnace. The Monkey King used the power of the furnace to simulate all kinds of creation during the creation of the world, and to understand the laws of creation of the basic matter and energy of the three realms, chi of vitality. Although it was only a simplified magical instrument, the Monkey King could already create dozens of types of innate and acquired chi of vitality that almost did not exist in the three realms at this time. Using these chi of vitality to transform the function of matter, he could create hundreds or even thousands of extremely rare materials, including many rare treasures of the three realms. It could be said that he had mastered the laws of creation. It was nearing the end of the year, and all kinds of undercurrents were surging in Itsu City. Even the caravans stationed outside the city could feel the strange atmosphere between the 6 divisions of Itsu. After 2 of the men in charge of purchasing rations disappeared inexplicably, fewer and fewer people were willing to leave the camp. Merchant Zhu also gradually became anxious. He had thought that it would not take much effort to meet the king of Itsu. Unexpectedly, after reporting, there was no news. He had asked many people for information over the past few days, but had not been able to find out anything useful. However, Merchant Zhu was after all not a common person. He actually saw some of the undercurrents in Itsu City. He then found the Monkey King and said, "I have been asking around about the matter that Sun Junzi entrusted to me, and I finally have some news. That's why I came to see Sun Junzi. If Sun Junzi agrees, we can meet the Itsu King tomorrow." The Monkey King was willing to calculate. With the computing power of his quantum primordial spirit, it was not difficult for him to calculate everything in Itsu City. It was not difficult for him to know everyone like the back of his hand. The reason why he did not put in effort was because this matter was not worth his time. No matter how much undercurrents were surging in Itsu City, it was not difficult. If the Monkey King was willing, it would not be difficult for him to send these people to the netherworld to be reincarnated in a night. Even if he overthrew the position of Itsu King, it would be easy for him to lead the Itsu tribe. However, he vaguely calculated that what was worth worrying about along the way was the secret battle between Spirited Mountain and Chenong. This Itsu country was just an arena prepared by both parties. Be it Spirited Mountain or Chenong, they both had the ability to flip the chessboard at any time and set up a new chess game. Therefore, what happened between these chess pieces did not have much to do with each other. On the contrary, if they interfered too much in Itsu country, they would lose their bearing. Therefore, although Chenong ordered the Monkey King to arrange the meeting with the Itsu King, the Monkey King did not worry much. This was because he had already calculated that the meeting with the Itsu King would be the moment Spirited Mountain entered the game. This matter should be natural, and there was no need to interfere. The Monkey King did not mind listening and asked, "I wonder what happened in Itsu country recently, that even Master Zhu finds it troublesome." This internal strife of the Rongdi is not a troublesome matter. If it was still in Daqin, I could easily take control of this small incident. Zhu Deheo was not humble at all. He smiled and said, "It's just that we are in someone else's territory. Even if I have 1,000 skills, I can't do much. I have told Sun Junzi that the Chuyin clan's power has increased greatly. With the help of a great shaman in their clan, they have gained the support of the 6 tribes, Yangju, Guiji, and Penglu. They want to usurp the Quan Gao clan's throne. Now in the grasslands, the small tribes loyal to the Quan Gao clan have inexplicably attracted demon attacks, or the four tribes of the Chu Yin clan. The tiger demon we met along the way that descended the mountain to eat humans. Now that I think about it, there's something fishy about it. Those demons live on Mount Chilian and Mount Lupan. How would they be familiar with the grassland's geography? With such a large group of demons descending the mountain to eat humans, the hardest part is how to find the camps of the warhounds. Normally, when the demons descend the mountain, they would have to search for 7 to 8 days before they can find a few scattered barbarians to eat. If there is any movement in the small tribes, they would all go into hiding. The demons would only be chased out after a few days by the shamans who heard the news. Only by summoning extremely good demons can we find a tribe to eat. At first, I thought that the tiger demon was the same. But when I arrived at Ichu City, I found out that dozens of small tribes have been massacred by the demons this winter. Many mid-sized tribes with thousands of people were also eaten by a few demons. Monkey King laughed. Then someone must have secretly leaked the news, using the demons to kill people. Zhu Deheo nodded. Of course. I heard that the Yangju, Guiji, and Penglu tribes, led by the Chuyin clan, are challenging the Quan Gao clan's Ichu King. They want him to send out his army to chase away the demons and protect the small tribes in the grasslands. Ichu King has been worrying about this every day. Monkey King said, "How could he be willing to do that? Obviously, someone wants to use this opportunity to divert his army away, weakening the Quan Gao clan's power in Ichu City. If he diverts his army away, someone will make use of this opportunity to attack him, or the demons will kill his army instead. Even if he doesn't do anything, his army will still be cut off. Who would dare to support him in the future?" Wu Kong saw that Merchant Zhu was in a difficult position. He thought for a moment and suddenly understood. Owner Zhu has been so hesitant these few days. Compared to that righteous canal king being driven to desperation, he probably has ideas on Owner Zhu. Zhu Deheo smiled bitterly and said, "Just as Master Sun has predicted, the Ichu king is not a great strategist. Now that he is in a desperate situation, he wants to get rid of the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness. On one hand, he wants to take my army to equip his own warriors. On the other hand, he wants to use the wealth of the caravan to befriend the Yangju, Guiji, and Penglu tribes. He even wants to force me to use the thousands of hangers on here to feed the demons." Wu Kong said, "How could East Lord Zhu not be a decisive person? That Ichu king is full of schemes, so why do we need to hang on to him? We can just support the Chu Yin clan to usurp the throne. When the time comes, we can take advantage of the Ichu king's internal strife to plunder and escape while the situation isn't settled. Who can stop East Lord Zhu?" Zhu Deheo smiled bitterly this time and sighed. "Master Sun might not know this, but if that is the case, I will naturally rebel against him in the dark and leave after plundering. In the future, I can make use of this opportunity to build a relationship with the new Ichu king. With careful management, it is not difficult to build a relationship again. But does the Chu Yin clan's great shaman have an old grudge against me?" Monkey King only smiled and said, "For wealth and goods, what grudge can count? The Chu Yin clan is also looking for strong reinforcements everywhere. Master Zhu's caravan has close to 1,000 men, and they are all elites, armed with strong bows and crossbows. Moreover, with the kingdom of Daqin, the Chu Yin clan is also looking for strong reinforcements like Master Zhu. Let's turn enemies into friends. Isn't that a win-win situation?" Chapter 892. The great shaman of the Chu Yin clan had learned the secret technique passed down for the Guifang country to the Western Mother country. He modified this witchcraft technique to be extremely cruel and bloody. He used the skulls of 9 shamans with magic power to attract the shaman's soul and imprison them on the skeletons. He fed them with the blood of infants and tortured the living cruelly, causing the shaman's soul to become violent and replace the original shaman to control the battle souls of the warhound's warriors. The originally temporary witchcraft technique became a technique to refine shaman soldiers. He was able to train an extremely cruel, bloodthirsty, and unafraid of death army. Although this technique was originally created by the shaman, he had no way to cultivate it. Although those shamans were cruel and bloody when they cultivated witchcraft, how could they be willing to let their own souls be tortured by witchcraft? Therefore, although the great shaman was highly valued, he was also guarded against. He had no way to cultivate it, causing him to be distressed all day long. Later on, there was a fortuitous encounter where the sorcerer encountered two demons fighting to the death. It was two snake demons fighting for a fortuitous encounter on Mount Lupan. Both of them were injured and were ambushed by the sorcerer. One of the white snakes was slightly injured and escaped. The sorcerer was busy chasing after it, so he cast a spell on the severely injured green snake. The sorcerer thought that the green snake was not far from death after being cursed by the spell. Since he could kill the white snake, he came to collect the corpse. Unexpectedly, the green snake's cultivation was beyond the shaman's expectations. It actually endured its injuries and escaped. After the shaman returned, he investigated in every possible way. That was because I was traveling with another large merchant's caravan. Occasionally, I saw a child in the caravan smashing a small green snake. Out of kindness, I saved it. Afterwards, the shaman came back to look for it and wanted to barge into the caravan to search. However, that was because the former Ichu king was still able to suppress him and ordered him not to disturb him. Thus, he let me save the snake demon. When I established the caravan, I had the snake demon's help. However, how could the shaman not know about this? He had long heard that there was a snake demon helping me and was suspicious. However, after the green snake demon obtained that opportunity, his cultivation improved greatly and was not weaker than him. The shaman still had to guard against the suppression of the Ichu king, so he could not do anything to me. Instead, I got closer to the former Ichu king and maintained this relationship until now. That was why the Ichu king was not afraid of me joining the Chuyin clan. Now that the great shaman of the Chuyin clan has secretly killed the shamans of his own tribe, or the shamans of those small tribes, after piecing them together, he has already refined 9 blood skeletons, which can control the wandering gods and greatly increase their strength. In turn, they can suppress the Ichu royal family. He and I have a grudge against each other. If I go to him, I'm afraid that I will be refined into a ghost, never to be reincarnated. The Monkey King understood and said, "So there is such an inside story. No wonder Master Zhu Master is so troubled." However, Master Zhu Master should have cleared up the issue and asked us to meet the king of Chu Kingdom. Master Zhu Deheo smiled and said, "It is all thanks to son Junzi teaching my son spells. I went to meet the king of Chu Kingdom secretly and told him how powerful the 4 mortals are. I also used the incident of eliminating the demon as proof. The king of Chu Kingdom had already sent people to investigate this matter. When he knew that the 4 immortals were so powerful, he did not dare to delay and sent people to invite you. As long as Sun Junzi agreed, the Ichu king would be able to help him. If Sun Junzi had any requests, the Ichu king would definitely agree. Even if Sun Junzi did not like the Ichu king, I could ask him to leave on his own." The Monkey King nodded and said, "Master Zhu Deheo is very capable." Zhu Dashing laughed and said, "It's not that I have the ability, it's all about my family's capital. If it was just me, it would be a blessing from the heavens to be able to protect my family in this battle, and I still need to overcome all difficulties. But with Sun Junzi lending me capital, it's as easy as flipping my hand for me to make those 2 families fight to please me. It is just that it all depends on Sun Junzi. I do not dare to act on my own. Master Sun, please tell us, should we watch the fire from the other side, or should we benefit from both sides? Should we help the Ichu king to quell the internal strife, or should we eat both sides and support our own puppet?" The Monkey King said with a smile, "There is no rush. Let's go see that Ichu king first." Early in the morning of the 2nd day, someone came to pass on the Ichu king's decree, inviting Chenong and the other 3 doctors of the Central Plains to have an audience. Sitting on the bronze chariot, the Monkey King said with a mischievous smile that Ichu king is quite the face. The Qin king's thousand-chariot country only dares to invite Master to a banquet, but he is the ruler of a small barbarian country, yet he has such a big tone, asking us to have an audience. Master, should we have him come with his whole body, or should we send a wisp of his soul to the underworld to reflect? Monkey King, we came out to educate the barbarians. How can we kill them as soon as we meet? The barbarians do not know etiquette, so we should be tolerant. Let's see what that Ichu King says first. If it is too disrespectful, then let your new disciple make a move. Chenong said in a serious voice. The Ichu King was quite good, learning many styles from the Central Plains and mixing in the Warhound's culture. Although it did not have the grandeur of the Qin King's palace, it was still interesting. When Chenong saw the Ichu King, he was a short and fat barbarian. He had small eyes, a flat face, and a short nose. There were many bronze, bone, and ivory decorations on his clothes. When he got a bit closer, he gave off a coquettish aura. His eyes were filled with a sinister aura. Looking at him, he did not look like he was wise or talented. Not only was he ugly, he also had a rude and unreasonable aura. In Chun Ang's eyes, he was like a hoodlum in the 21st century who had a slightly larger bearing. They all wanted to show off their fierceness. When Chenong saw this Ichu King, he only bowed slightly and did not seem to be very respectful. However, he did not see any special reaction from the Ichu King and the other tribe leaders. Under Bai Lishi's leadership, Qin had gained a lot of prestige. Moreover, the Central Plains had always treated Huaxia as the official dynasty, so they looked down on Rongdi. This kind of attitude seemed normal to them. That Ichu King understood the Qin language, but he did not speak it well. Zhu Daihou translated from his side. The Ichu King asks this gentleman, "Do you have any good words to teach me about ruling a country?" Chenong naturally knew that the Ichu King's original words would not be so polite. He smiled faintly and replied in the Hu language, "I see that the Ichu country is not civilized yet. The people are simple and honest. Although there are some barbarians, they are unique. They only worship demons and ghosts, so there will be trouble. The people believe in shamans, and the people believe in them. However, shamans often sacrifice demons and ghosts. This is not the right way, and there is a risk that the authority of the king will fall." The Ichu King was slightly moved, but this had scratched his itch. He asked, "Shamans protect my people from the attacks of demons and ghosts. How is that not right?" Chenong smiled and said, "Shamans worship demons and ghosts. Even if they can protect them for a while, they will learn from them and sacrifice their people. This is using demons and ghosts that they rear to deal with wild demons and ghosts. When there are too many demons, there will be trouble. They will harm others, and this is not a wise choice. Furthermore, the people of the tribe are like shamans. They have learned the cruelty and bloodthirst of demons, and there is no loyalty or obedience in their hearts. Thus, the ruler of the Central Plains can use loyalty to order his subjects around, but the people of the Ichu King have to guard against them rebelling." The Ichu King felt that it was very reasonable. He did not have the stupid idea of the Hu people being cruel and having more fighting power, because the Hu people who were like wolves were now being beaten by the loyal Qin people. How would he dare to say that the people of the Central Plains were weak and could not fight? The Ichu King hurriedly asked, "What do the scholarly officials teach me?" Chenong laughed out loud 3 times and asked the Ichu King about the teachings of shaman sorcerers. The Ichu King told him about them one by one. Chun Ang's knowledge of various planes, even when religion was at its peak, he could still speak eloquently, not to mention this rather primitive and ignorant shaman sorcery. He immediately looked for loopholes and refuted them one by one, dismissing the gods worshipped by shamanism as demons and ghosts, a lowly and mediocre existence. He also used reincarnation and the 6 paths of good and evil to confuse people. He talked about good karma, and reincarnation. He said that suffering in this life was the karma of the past life, so suffering was atonement. The lower class of the Warhound's clansmen and slaves had done evil in their past life, so they were repaid. Resisting was the stupidest thing, so they deserved to be slaves in their next life. Only by being submissive and cultivating virtue was the right path, so they could enjoy blessings in their next life. This kind of demonic words was to the liking of the Ichu king and the various tribe leaders, making them believe him. They praised the wisdom of the doctors of the Central Plains and declared that what Chunong said was the true teachings of the gods. Chunong used his silver tongue and used the undeveloped production of the nomadic tribes, causing the nobles to not have long lifespans. He said that the affairs of the world were impermanent and that living in this world meant suffering many hardships. He explained to them one by one that their family's suffering was the karma of their past life and used the suffering of reincarnation to threaten them. In a short period of time, he made the nomadic tribes' nobles believe him without a doubt. He also talked about how above the 6 paths of reincarnation, there was a pure land of bliss. It was a beautiful place with boundless bliss, and only believers of the Amitabha Buddha and the Amitabha Buddha could enter the pure land. Even if they couldn't enter the pure land, they would still have good karma in their next life. For example, they could reincarnate into a noble family or become a feudal lord in their next life. These country bumpkins had never seen such logic before, so their minds were all shaken. They wished they could enter the Amitabha Buddha and the Amitabha Buddha on the spot. Chinong said that the pure land of bliss had 129,000 kinds of bliss and was filled with endless peace and tranquility. How could it be so beautiful? This made the Ichu king doubt that there was such a beautiful place in this world, so he questioned him. Chinong put his palms together and said with a smile, "The great king has not seen the pure land of bliss, so you are confused. I have a painting of the pure land of bliss that was passed down by a kind-hearted person who ascended to the pure land of bliss. It depicts the boundless peace and harmony of the pure land. You can take a look at it, Your Majesty." He immediately sent over the old Demon River Styx's talisman, the Tian Mo Extreme Bliss painting, when he ascended to Shushan. He unfolded the numerous pure land of bliss in the painting, and the Ichu king was dumbfounded. He was in awe of the gods and Buddhas. Laozi smiled bitterly at the side. Chinong looked like he had turned into a Buddha and passed down the pure land of Buddhism. But in reality, he was using superstition to replace righteousness and do evil. That was why when the Ichu king asked Laozi how to go to the pure land of bliss, Laozi told them about morality, all kinds of kindness and brightness. He tried to use superstition to guide them to the right path. Even though he was still confused, he could still be considered as good. However, when the Ichu king heard Laozi talking about morality and compassion, even though he was touched by Laozi's compassion and what he said was reasonable, he was stubborn and couldn't listen to it. On the other hand, the attendants and slaves who served at the side were deeply touched and secretly remembered it. The Ichu king's nobles were not interested in Laozi's words of compassion and kindness, so they asked Chinong again. Chinong only talked about piety and faith, using great perseverance to move the gods and Buddhas, praying to the gods and Buddhas to be saved, to be able to believe in Buddha and borrow the powers and great wishes of the gods to enter the pure land of bliss. He explained the 48 great wishes of the Amitayus Buddha on the spot to deliver all living beings from suffering. Whether they were virtuous or foolish, he could deliver them to the pure land of bliss. Chapter 893. Chinong played around with his tongue and spoke in an extravagant manner, deceiving the ignorant warhounds people. These teachings of the Pure Land sect, even in the Central Plains, could confuse a large group of fools, making them do all kinds of unimaginable things. Even if their family was about to starve to death, they would still give offerings and ask for good fortune in the afterlife. Even in the modern society where science flourished, there was still a group of good men and women who believed in rebirth in the Pure Land and cultivating virtue. On one hand, they gave out large amounts of money, while on the other hand, they made jokes about releasing animals and cultivating virtue. Not to mention the fact that the current productivity was very backward and the materials were not developed in the pre-Qin era. The Ichu country was filled with barbarians and life was very difficult. Even these nobles did not have any interest in life, and death was a common occurrence. These tribe leaders were used to seeing life and death, so they did not feel that living in this world had any happiness. This kind of painful life that required religion to numb them was a vast world that needed to be accomplished. Thinking about the shaman religion, it was still a primitive religion that was filled with nameless terror and evil retribution. When they met Chenong, this kind of cheat and this unprecedented salvation, they naturally threw away their helmets and armor, unable to withstand a single blow. The group of barbarian nobles carelessly sold their souls to Chenong and were destined to enter the demon extreme bliss diagram in the future. The teachings that Chenong was currently talking about, along with the various nobles on the road to the west, the surrender and conversion, the wish of the gods and Buddhas, the 48 vows to open up the pure land of bliss, were collectively known as the Buddha's Mayana Infinite Life Solemn Scripture, passed down by Chenong Infinite Life Buddha. As for Laozi's morality and good deeds, cultivating the 3 blessings of pure karma, chanting Buddha's nature, it was arranged into the Buddha's Amitabha Sutra and the Praising the Pure Land Buddha Sutra, passed down by Laozi's Amitabha Buddha. As for the 2 of them chanting Buddha's nature, chanting Buddha's name and other teachings, it was called the Buddha's Amitabha Sutra. These 3 sutras were the Pure Land sect of Mahayana Buddhism. The Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss was actually the world of the Heavenly Devil. Chanting the Amitabha Buddha in the Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss was equivalent to becoming a devil. It was actually the Heavenly Devil world that was excavating the foundation of Buddhism. Cult Master Chun has turned into a heavenly demon and obstructed the path of Buddhism. The evil retribution he has received is boundless. Laozi counted with his fingers and sighed. I'm afraid that after hundreds and thousands of years, the Sand sect will be extinct and the Pure Land side sects will prosper. Excellent, excellent. It's a sin. Chenong smiled and said, although this method is superstition of the sky demon, the Lord of Tao and virtue incarnated as Amitabha and passed down the mantra of Tao and virtue among the superstitious demonic path. In the sky demon Pure Land, one can also become a Buddha. It's a pity that there are more fools in the world. Those who are able to attain enlightenment are like pearls undiscovered in the vast ocean. There are very few of them. Buddhism will certainly usher in the Dharma ending era. Chenong put his palms together and praised. It's not that I've become a demon, but the real demon is free. If I really enter the absurd state, there will be the transformation of the sky demon. No, for the sake of the Tao. Monkey King heard this and realized, if the truth is unspeakable, the great Tao cannot be seen. Although a seed of enmity was planted in the hearts of the Yitu country's tribal leaders and nobles, but shallow beliefs were temporarily unable to defeat the objective world. When the Yitu king came back to his senses and thought about the situation he was facing, even if the Pure Land of Bliss was right in front of him, he still had to grab hold of the power first. Compared to the thoughts of power, all beliefs had to be put aside first. After calming down, although the king of Yitu still firmly believed in Chenong's words, the cold reality ultimately defeated his sense of sacredness for the time being, causing him to start plotting how to make use of Chenong and the others. If before, the Yitu king still had some doubts about the 4 having mana when Zhu Deheo and Shang said, now there was only a trace of doubt left. He put all his effort into planning how to make use of Chenong and the rest to suppress the Chu Yin tribe's grand shaman. The Yitu king secretly ordered someone to leak the news here to the Chu Yin tribe's grand shaman. He smiled politely and said, the 2 Central Plains great physicians are indeed great. Your words have enlightened me and enlightened me. Today, I will host a banquet in the palace to entertain the 2 great physicians. I hope that the 2 great physicians will not be stingy with their teachings and tell me more about the mysteries of the Pure Land of Bliss. Chenong returned the courtesy and said, that's my wish. The Yitu king gave a proud laugh and said, 2 great physicians, 2 great disciples, please follow me. Under the lead of the king of Yitu, Chenong and his party headed straight for the most luxurious hall in the palace. The king of Yitu had imitated the palaces of the Central Plains and had built many halls in his palace. The one he had invited Chenong to the banquet was a high platform called the Deer Terrace Pavilion. This fellow probably did not know what had happened to King Zhou of Shang. This name was very inauspicious. First, he invited Chenong to the banquet, and now there was a banquet on the Deer Terrace. With so many flags, it seemed like the future of this Yitu king was not very good. When the banquet began, the Yitu king and the various tribe leaders and nobles were all talking and laughing. They only used 120% of their enthusiasm to entertain the guests. There was also the singing and dancing of the warhounds people at the banquet. It had the style of a primitive shaman's sacrificial dance. A group of shamans wearing demonic ghost masks shouted and danced in the hall, demonstrating the grand sacrificial scene of the ancient people driving away the demonic ghosts. Although it was not as solemn as the singing and dancing of the Central Plains, it was still very simple. When the shaman dance reached its climax and the demons and ghosts were dancing in the night and day, there was suddenly a large commotion in front of them. The Yitu king was secretly happy, but he pretended to be angry on the surface as he shouted, "Who has the guts to dare intrude into the banquet I'm entertaining guests at?" But he heard a loud shout from below as a reply. "Oh, I don't know which guest the king is entertaining. What kind of skill does he have to make the king enjoy our Yitu country's sacrificial dance to the sorcerer god?" Chenong looked up and saw a tattooed person with bronze, bone ornaments, oars, and other tattoos. He was tall and had a fishy smell as he pushed aside the guards and charged in. As soon as he entered, he turned to look at where Chenong and the others were sitting and revealed an unkind sneer. Looking at his appearance, it was the mysterious shaman that had appeared after the tiger demon was killed. Merchant Zhu revealed a rare, stiff expression when he was swept over by him. The merchant that had always been walking between Chenong and the Yitu king finally revealed an uneasy and fearful expression. That shaman's eyes were filled with a deep hostility as he deeply looked at Chenong and the others and revealed a cruel smile. The expressions of the various tribe leaders and nobles all changed as they were filled with fear. Chapter 894. When the Yitu king invited Chenong and his group to a banquet, the waiter who was secretly instructed by the Yitu king secretly leaked the news. However, he did not notice that when Chenong was preaching, a slave who was serving the nobleman had also secretly swapped identities with a person who looked exactly the same, restored his noble attire, and left the palace. In just a few moments, the great wizard Juyin, who was outside the city, received the news. "How dare you?" the great wizard Juyin said angrily. He listened to the spy in front of him, who was disguised as a slave, vividly imitating Chenong's words and actions, and suddenly laughed coldly. "The Yitu king, that idiot! I originally had no way to make a move so early. I originally wanted to slowly weaken his wings, and then finally make a move, but he gave me the best reason. There are many sorcerers in the Yitu 6 tribes who support us, but there are even more who are hesitant and neutral. The remaining sorcerers are all worried about the sorcery that I have cultivated, so they're not willing to support the Yitu tribe as king. Now, that the Yitu king is actually going along with this kind of heresy, he is actually digging up the foundation of us sorcerers. If this was announced to the world, who would still be willing to support him?" Great wizard Juyin slowly closed his eyes, carefully pondering and polishing the matter until he was sure that his plan was not foolproof, but he was extremely confident. Only then did he open his eyes and ordered, "Go and invite the other great wizards over." Upon hearing this, the scout excused himself and went to inform the great wizards of the Yangju, Guiji, and Penglu tribe. After the great sorcerers of the 3 tribes arrived, great sorcerer Jian told them everything that the Yitu king had done, causing the 3 great sorcerers to be enraged at the same time, throwing the pitiful respect they had for the Yitu king to the back of their minds. Great sorcerer Juyin added fuel to the fire. Esteemed great sorcerers, the Yitu king's wild ambitions are already clear as day. Ever since the previous Yitu kings were conferred the title by the Zhou royal family, it caused their ambition to expand and in turn suppress the prestige of us sorcerers. Since ancient times, The people of the White Dog tribe have listened to the teachings of the sorcerers, choosing warriors as leaders so that we can protect the tribe's prosperity. Now that the tribe leader has been conferred the title of king by the Zhou royal family, he is arrogant and has offended the ancestral gods and offended the prestige of the sorcerers. The nobles of the tribe have forgotten who is their guide. They have forgotten the ancestral gods. They have listened to the heresy of the Middle Earth. They have abolished many of the powers of the sorcerers, offended the ancestors, and caused the wrath of the gods, causing disasters to fall on the people of the tribe. They have made the people of the tribe fear and hate us. They have accused us of allowing the gods to eat blood. Now they have even turned their backs on the ancestral gods and worship the heretical evil gods. The reason why I, Zhu Yin, want to kick the Quan Gao family off the throne is to overthrow these atrocities that have disobeyed our ancestors, to restore the glory of the sorcerers, so that the souls of our people can return to us under the guidance of the White Dog tribe, so that they can rest in peace, so that the tribe can return to the right path. Respected great wizards, are you still willing to support me? The three great wizards discussed for a while. Then they all nodded and said, Great Wizard Zhu Yin is right. We are all willing to support you. The Gui Ji clan's great wizard was a bit hesitant. He said, Great Wizard Zhu Yin, there are many nobles who support the Quan Gao family. Even in our tribe, there are many who support him. Although, with our prestige, we can make the tribe lean towards you. But if you want to kill the Quan Gao family, it will be very hard for us to suppress those who oppose us. Killing the Quan Gao family won't damage the foundation of the Quan Gao family. It will only make the neutral nobles hate us. So, this time I won't do anything to him. Great Wizard Zhu Yin smiled and said, My real target is those Middle-earth people who spread the heresy. I will spread the words of those few Middle-earth people in front of the Quan Gao family, forcing those wizards who support the Quan Gao family to stand up and oppose him. I will win those neutral wizards over to our side. Then I will use the cruelest method to torture those few Middle-earth people to death in front of the Quan Gao family. I will damage his authority, and finally, I will kill him. After all, they are Middle-earth people from the Zhou dynasty. Be careful of them. One of the great wizards reminded. Great Wizard Zhu Yin laughed out loud. Great Wizard Yang Pa, are you worried that those Middle-earth people are cultivators? Great Wizard Zhu Yin stopped laughing. He said calmly, So what if they're cultivators? I've already mastered that witchcraft. How many people in Middle-earth can be my enemy? Some of those people are even more powerful. They can just replace the blood skeletons made from the dead wizards. They have been dead for too long. Their souls have become very weak. The quality of the blood skeletons made from them will be much lower than those made from living people. With their heads and souls as the blood sacrifice, in addition to the few wizards from the Quan Gao family who oppose us, my blood skeletons will become extremely powerful. When I become the Quan Gao family's king, I will lead you to conquer Middle-earth, find blood food, wealth, and land. Conquer the countries there, kill their cultivators, and enslave their people. Speaking of excitement, Great Wizard Zhu Yan's tone was deep and sinister, causing the skinny, small, ugly, and old wizards to laugh out loud. Their voices were like night owls, fluttering in the night sky. A great wizard who was as skinny as a skeleton, emitting a rancid smell, laughed strangely and said, The people of Middle-earth are very smart. Their souls will definitely be able to please the gods of our ancestors. After the four great wizards reached a consensus, Great Wizard Zhu Yin led the wizards of the four tribes to the Yichu royal palace to launch an attack on Chunong and the others. After Great Wizard Zhu Yin broke into the Deer Terrace Palace, he recognized Chunong and the other visitors from Middle-earth at first glance. His eyes scanned around Chun Ang's body a few times, paying special attention to Chun Ang's skull and the top of his head. Hearing the Yichu king's invitation, Great Wizard Zhu Yin only sneered and said, What a handsome skull, what a straight top of the head. The visitors from Middle-earth are indeed extraordinary. That spiritual light that shot up from the top of the head, isn't it 3 feet high? Great Wizard Juyin stretched out his right hand that was as skinny as a chicken's claw and dragged out a wine vessel made of skull inlaid with gold from behind him. His long fingernails were black and curved. When he held the wine vessel made of skull, the nail of his thumb dug into the bowl. Great Wizard Juyin did not care. He stretched out the wine vessel and let the slave beside him pour the wine. The slave poured the lamb wine while trembling. The wine did not go past Great Wizard Juyin's thumb. Black dirt seeped out from his jet-black fingernails, and the black filth spread out in the wine. Not long after, the yellow lamb wine was dyed black, and a pungent smell assaulted the nostrils. The slave took a whiff of it and immediately fell down. His whole body twitched and finally turned into pus and blood. Chapter 895. Master, do you want me to drag this fellow out and beat him to death? Monkey King whispered into Chun'ang's ears. Chun'ang was naturally indifferent and calmly said, Wukong, don't be impatient. Don't embarrass yourself in front of Mahisthammaprapta Bodhisattva. After which he smiled at a young foreign monk behind Grand Magus Juyin. That inconspicuous foreign monk immediately clasped his hands together and returned the greeting respectfully. Wukong bared his teeth and sneered at the foreign monk. Bodhisattva, you were blocked by my master at the entrance of Mount Numinous and beaten up. Now that you are not hiding in Mount Numinous to recuperate, why are you coming down to get involved in this mess? Don't you know how tough my Jingu Bang is? Why don't we find a quiet place and have a spar? The monk who was Mahisthammaprapta Bodhisattva was not affected by Monkey King's provocation. He bowed slightly and said, This little monk pays his respects to heaven-equal demon emperor, boundless heavenly lord, and Taishang Laojun. When Laozi saw the incarnation of the great power, he sighed in admiration and said, The Mahabol, the merit of strength, can be returned today. The earth trembled, the rain fell, the Buddhas of the 10 directions have been taught to you. When you succeed, you will be revered by the heavens. With the power of wisdom, you can go through 3 hardships and obtain supreme bliss. Hence, it is called Mahisthammaprapta. The 4 of them use their boundless wisdom to communicate with each other. Mahisthammaprapta shone with boundless light as they paid their respects to Chun'ang, Laozi, and Monkey King. Laozi responded with his boundless wisdom. Chun'ang used the wisdom of all things to teach them, while Monkey King used the light of the sun and moon to communicate with Mahisthammaprapta. Hence, although the 4 of them greeted each other, those who were not able to understand their wisdom could not see or hear them. These were all Buddhist terms. According to Chun'ang's translation, the words of the saints, bodhisattvas, and emperors contained boundless wisdom and information. Hence, they could only converse in the language of light. Those whose reflexes were slower than the speed of light had no choice but to sit there foolishly like the others, unable to hear, understand, or even know the existence of the conversation between the saints and bodhisattvas. Monkey King was a little depressed. He whispered, Master, is Mahisthammaprapta here to fight with us? Chun'ang shook his head. Why would the Western spiritual mountain be so unwise? Don't they know that you've wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace? How many of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of Spirited Mountain are your match? If I want to defeat you, I'll have to fight with those tough guys. If Spirited Mountain is so shameless, can't I lend you a few powerful magical weapons that I've kept for myself? Gold Immortal the Jew has always relied on his wits to win. He must have come to challenge me to a duel of magic. Master, Wukong's eyes lit up as he said, Can those powerful magic treasures of yours compare to the golden ship of good fortune? Chun'ang laughed and said, That golden ship is a magic treasure that I use to transport troops. It's not good at killing, so naturally I can win. Hearing Chun'ang's reply, Wukong scratched his ears and cheeks, finding it extremely hard to bear. It was as if there was a monkey rebelling in his heart, and his heart itched unbearably as he said, Ancestor, can you let me take a peek at those powerful magic treasures? You lazy monkey, if you can win against Mahisthammaprapta Bodhisattva, why not let you take a peek? Chun'ang laughed. Chun'ang looked at Mahisthammaprapta Bodhisattva sitting beside Grand Shaman Juyin. He secretly said to Monkey King, "Now that Masthemerprapta Bodhisattva is here, it's not convenient for us to fight. Otherwise, we'll become a laughingstock at Mount Ling. Didn't you take in a disciple a few days ago? Call him over and let me take a look." Monkey King said, "He's just a disciple in name. He's not worth mentioning. Now that he's been chosen by ancestral master, it's his good fortune." He then called over the young man with the surname Zhu, feeling pity for him. After following Chenong for so long, he didn't even have a full name. Monkey King called the young man in front of Chun Ong. Chun Ong said, "Since you've gained the opportunity to become my disciple, I'll give you something good. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to still use a common name. I'll give you a Taoist name. Your master is from the Wu generation, so you'll be called Yuan Tong." Yuan Tong agreed obediently and heard Chenong say, "Take out the gourd your master gave you." Yuan Tong immediately handed over the black gourd and heard Chenong say, "Monkey King, you're too rash. Although you have a clever idea, you only care about how powerful your disciple is. You've forgotten that your disciple's arcane energy is shallow. If you give him such a powerful magical weapon, he'll be decisive in killing, but he'll be like a child wielding a sledgehammer. I'm afraid he'll hurt himself first. Do you think he won't die fast enough if you use the 10 million fire lightning? Besides, it's fine as long as a Taoist's magical artifact can protect one's life. How many times can such a ruthless thing that can easily wipe out cities and countries be used? If he's in a situation where he needs to save someone or defend himself, how many sins do you want him to commit? Just like the duels in the palace hall, people use small tricks. Once your disciple goes up, he'll scatter a large amount of poisonous fire lightning pellets. After the duel, not to mention his opponent, even the people around him will die." Chun Ong mumbled and pointed at the gourd. He instructed Yuan Tong, "Later, no matter who jumps out to provoke you, you have to take it on. If they want to duel with you, you just have to throw the gourd above your head. It'll protect you. When the person's spell loses its effect, point at him and say, 'Baby, please turn around.'" After giving his instructions, Chun Ong returned the gourd to him. Just as Chun Ong finished giving his instructions, the great wizard Yin said to the Yitu king, "I heard that the esteemed guest from the Central Plains was invited by your majesty to seek guidance. It said that the few Central Plains people said that our witchcraft spells are bloody and cruel. Most of them harm people's lives. We worship demonic ghosts and are uncivilized, causing people to be violent and dissatisfied. In many tribes, there are many people who rebel against their superiors and kill each other. Is there such a thing?" The Yitu king mumbled, "What did the great wizard say? This doesn't make sense. He must have been provoked by me." "Huh." The great wizard Jian laughed and said, "Your majesty is saying that my blood skulls are lying? My 9 blood skulls roam around Yitu city day and night. I know everything that is said in the city. Your majesty, don't try to deceive me." The Yitu king looked left and right, looking extremely pathetic. His words were full of refusal. Looking at his ugly state, the Monkey King whispered in his ear, "Master, why do I see this Yitu king is so useless? There's no power in his words and actions. He's being forced by others with words, and he's actually struggling to cope. That great wizard despises witchcraft. I can tell with one look. It's obvious that he's tricking him, but he actually believed it." Chenong smiled and said, "Monkey King, you're still too young. That Yitu king is just putting on a show for others to see. He's taking a step back. He was originally standing in front. Now that he's taking a step back, isn't he putting us in front? I think the conflict between the Yitu country's wizards and the warrior nobles has reached a limit. That Yitu king was originally just a representative of the warrior nobles. I'm afraid he hasn't gotten the support of all the warrior nobles. If not, he wouldn't be forced into such a pathetic state by the wizard Jian. He's using us to block the disaster because he sees that we have some ability. Now that the great wizard Jian wants to use us to fight for the support of the other wizards, that Yitu king thinks that we have some ability. We have theories and can fight for the support of the other tribe leaders who are dissatisfied with the wizard's godly authority. We also have spells and can't kill the great wizard's witchcraft. Therefore, He's using us as a raft to let us sing along with the great wizard. With him at the side, it'll be more balanced. This Etsu king is very ambitious. I'm afraid he's not satisfied with being the representative of the nobles supporting the suppression of the godly authority. He wants us to share the burden for him while he creates a balance between the two factions. Only by stirring up these different theories can he gradually grasp real power and suppress the two factions at the same time. Chenong and the Monkey King were watching from the sidelines while the Etsu king was burning the fire. King Etsu seemed to be helpless as he replied, "The few physicians from the Central Plains are not without reason. The saying of reincarnation and the pure land of ultimate bliss is also very profound. It is not an ordinary saying. The great wizard Jian said that it's heresy. I'm afraid he won't be able to convince the masses." Hearing the Etsu king say this, the nobles nodded and whispered in agreement. Looking at the nobles' responses, it was obvious that the Etsu king had put in a lot of effort to be able to spread the teachings of the Pure Land that Shun Ong preached so quickly. The nobles would probably think that it was the truth of heaven and earth the moment they saw it. It wasn't that they were so gullible, but that they needed these beliefs to suppress the sorcerers for a long time. Chun Ang's words had probably become the consciousness weapon of the nobles to fight against the witches and ghosts. If it was as the Etsu king had planned, the nobles would elect Chun Ong to be the power to fight against the Jian family. With the Etsu king in the middle to balance things out, they might really be able to tame the sorcerers and let the royal power completely suppress the godly authority. Chun Ong would naturally end up like a stray bird in a hidden bough. It would take 100 years for the teachings of the Pure Land to penetrate deeply into the hearts of the Etsu country's warhounds. Only then would he be lucky enough to become a saint after death. It was a pity that summer insects could not talk about ice. This Etsu king probably never thought about what kind of world was outside the Etsu country. This kind of plan had no possibility of success from the start. The great wizard Jian and the Etsu king tangled with words for a while. In the end, he could not do anything to the slippery Etsu king and could not argue against the strict teachings of the Pure Land School. He could only glare fiercely at Chun Ang's father, who was sitting at the side watching the show, and said with a cold smile, "The few esteemed guests of the Central Plains, your mouth is smooth and not leaking anything. But the greatness of the ancestors and ghosts is not just in words, but in the divine power. I will invite the few ancestors and spirits to come and see the pure land of reincarnation that you have mentioned." Yuan Tong did not wait for the Monkey King's orders and took a step forward and said, "Such demons and ghosts, why would the three ancestors need to take action? I will take it on." Chapter 896. That great wizard Zhu Yin was cunning and suspicious by nature. He naturally did not believe that little brat could do anything to his tribe. Therefore, when he saw that the other party only sent out a kid who was still wet behind his ears, he had a few more thoughts in his mind. Those few people from the Central Plains are not willing to accept the challenge. So why did they send out a mortal junior? Great wizard Zhu Yin thought to himself, could it be that they think they can't win this round, so they sent someone to die? But looking at that black gourd, it seems to have some ability, but I don't know if it's just a strong appearance but weak inside. That person from the Central Plains is cunning. I need to be on guard for a while. Zhu Yin opened his mouth and said to a dark, skinny, and tall wizard behind him, "Chiedong, you go up and take this round." That dark and skinny wizard, wearing a fur robe and a sticky hat, revealed a trace of viciousness in his eyes. Looking at Yuan Tong, who was already standing in the court, he muttered in the Hu language, "Great wizard, if I kill this brat, please bestow his head to me." Great wizard Zhu Yin laughed and pretended to be magnanimous. "Chiedong, if you win, all the things of the enemy will be your spoils of war." The magus named Xiaodong thanked Zhu Yin and leaped up with a bone staff in hand. Seeing that both sides had gone up to the court, the Etsu king's brows furrowed slightly. He knew that Yuan Tong, the youth surnamed Zhu, the last time Zhu Dehao brought this son to the Etsu king's banquet, it was only a year ago. The Etsu king remembered it clearly. That youth was just a little brat, with the arrogance of a person from the Central Plains, Other than looking down on the Itu country's warhounds nobles, he did not have any other ability. Could it be that this wizard from the Central Plains has no ability? Otherwise, why would they send this brat up? The Itu king was a little worried. If Chunong and the rest only had the ability to talk, then his plan would become a joke. That Itu king coughed. A noble beside him immediately understood the meaning of the sound and came out to dissuade. For guests from the Central Plains, this competition in front of the king is not like your Central Plains. It is only a matter of time. It is a junior seeking guidance. Our Itu tribe has always respected warriors. We are not afraid of life and death. Even when competing in front of the king, it is hard to avoid a life and death struggle. The person you sent is still a child. Shouldn't you send an adult instead? While the Itu king was looking for a way out, Grand Magus was naturally unwilling. He gave Chiodong a look, and the dark and skinny Magus Chiodong immediately raised his bone staff and said loudly, "Since we're on the stage, it's a fight to the death. There's no reason to change people at the last minute." After saying that, he let out a great growl, grabbed a handful of magic medicines from the sheepskin bag on his back with his left hand, threw them out, and spurted out a stream of green flame from his mouth, igniting the powdered magic medicines. A tongue of flame started burning, darting towards Yuan Tong's face like a poisonous snake. At the same time, Qianju raised his heavy bone staff and smashed it towards Yuan Tong. Judging from the momentum of the head of the staff, Qianju seemed to be able to break a person's neck. After all, Yuan Tong didn't have any experience in fights of magical powers. At first, he was startled and didn't have time to react. He immediately revealed his fear and revealed a big flaw. Only then did Qianju raise his staff and took the opportunity to strike. That faint poisonous fire had just touched within 3 feet of Yuan Tong when it triggered a reaction from the black bottle gourd on his head. The mouth of the bottle gourd spat out a gust of black fog, and with just a turn, it kept the poisonous fire. Qianju's bone staff smashed towards Yuan Tong's vital points, but was also blocked by the black fog. A dense and tough wall of air formed under his hand, causing the force on the bone staff to feel like it was hitting empty air. Qianju felt a tightness in his chest. Unable to breathe, his face instantly turned pale. Luckily, Yuan Tong still remembered Chun Ang's instructions. His body shrank back and at the same time shouted, "Baby, please turn around." The mouth of the bottle gourd tilted downwards. Qianju vaguely heard from the bottle gourd an echo saying, "Baby, please turn around. Please turn around. Turn around." Body. Immediately, he felt a gust of qi was sucked away by the bottle gourd. His consciousness instantly became blurry, unable to distinguish left and right. He only remembered that one sentence, "Please turn around." In his muddle-headedness, his soul was sucked away by someone. Qianju's body twisted and turned towards the great wizard Xiyan. Yuan Tong said in shock, "So that's how it's used?" This magical treasure of the celestial family is indeed mysterious. I thought that the bottle gourd would turn and spit out a ray of sword light to take that guy's head off. Then he called out to the bottle gourd, "Baby, please kill. Please kill. Kill. Human." The echoing voice came from the mouth of the bottle gourd. If one looked carefully, one could faintly see that on the stomach of the black bottle gourd, there was actually a small crescent moon. No matter where the voice traveled to, not only did Qianju, a few sorcerers and warriors in that direction felt their heads sink, becoming muddle-headed, not knowing what to do. Qianju roared, his eyes bloodshot. His body swelled up several times. Almost risking his life force and burning his potential, he struck forward with his staff, smashing the head of a shocked sorcerer in front of the great wizard Xiyan into his chest. Just as the great wizard Xiyan wanted to smack Qianju to death, he suddenly felt a chill at the back of his head. There was a strong sound of wind passing into his ears. He hurriedly changed his direction and lay on the ground. A curved blade whistled past the back of the great wizard Xian's head. It was a warhound's warrior. His eyes were bloodshot, and he held 2 blades in his hands, slashing and killing. That warrior was obviously a powerful character. Chenong saw a few nobles on the Yi king's side, and they all couldn't help but exclaim a name. In just a blink of an eye, that warrior had already chopped off 7 to 8 heads at the head of the row. He was leading the other crazy guards, slashing in all directions like a madman. There were some who had killed the people around them and were killing towards the Yi king's side. There were also some who were killing towards Chunang's side. The great wizard Tian brought quite a number of guards with him. There were 8 to 9 sorcerers and 4 to 5 nobles. In that instant, those guards all went crazy. Even among the sorcerers, there were a few who had lower cultivation levels. On the other hand, the nobles had a trace of luck. None of them had their souls taken away. However, they were not lucky. The ones who died the fastest were the few nobles. When the king of Yi saw the blood splattered on the deer terrace pavilion, he felt a little pleased. But when he saw Yuan Tong's blank expression, he reflexively turned to look at his bad master, Wu Kong, who had taken out a peach from somewhere and was squatting there, nibbling on it while watching the show. The gourd on Yuan Tong's head immediately turned over. The slaves and nobles fled in all directions in the direction the gourd was heading in. The Yi king hurriedly shouted, "Little immortal, quickly retract your magical power." Monkey King moved closer to Chenong and asked in a low voice, "Master, what magical power did you cast on Yuan Tong? Every time he calls out treasure, I panic." Chenong said with a smile, "It's an unorthodox Dharma spell called soul capture. I added a forbidden spell on him that prevents the soul from being captured. That black gourd was refined from a breath of fiendish wind, transformed from a tiger demon. It was born to be able to control ghosts. When I cast the spell, I could borrow the wind to call out one's name and extract one's soul and 3 spirits from the body, throwing them into the gourd and turning them into ghosts. As for the body outside the gourd, it would also be controlled by others. This unorthodox technique can only deal with third-rate people who have yet to go through the 3 disasters and have yet to enter the immortal records. It can't compare to another technique that can cause one's name to fall from a horse and make it difficult for golden immortals to guard against it." Monkey King asked in puzzlement, "Master, doesn't that technique of calling out the person's name and form require one to call out the person's real name? Even that soul-capturing technique requires the person to respond and absorb that voice's aura before it can be used. This Yuan Tong doesn't call out the person's name and doesn't require the person to respond. He only calls out treasure, so how can he restrain the person's soul?" Chun Ong said with a smile, "This is your master's magical power. That black gourd doesn't need to borrow the name and sound to absorb that strand of aura. As long as he breathes through his nose and mouth, the black gourd can absorb his true aura and summon the soul to be captured." While the master and disciple were discussing the magical power, other than the foreign monk transformed from the great momentum sitting at the side and the ghosts whose souls were absorbed by the gourd treating him as non-existent, everyone else was killed. Even that great shaman Zhu Yin, after killing 2 guards, was shocked by these people's fearless madness. He quickly retreated and escaped out of the door. King Yi, who was above, exclaimed in shock. Yuan Tong hugged the gourd and panicked, shouting, "Treasure! Treasure!" But none of the ghosts were willing to respond, unable to stop them from killing. It was Chunong who couldn't bear it and didn't want all the guests and the host to die every time he attended a banquet. He then reminded, "This magical power is tied to a single thought. Yuan Tong, if your thoughts are not clear, how can the gourd respond to you?" And the technique of calling out the person's name and form is the most taboo. If you want to control those ghosts, you need to speak with some sincerity and sincerity. Shouting like this, even ghosts won't be fooled. Yuan Tong received his master's guidance and understood. He calmed himself down and called out to the ghosts, "Treasure, please stop." Chapter 897. Chun Ongjing looked at the farce that was happening in the Yi country. The Yi king was fleeing in panic. A group of guards were dead or injured. The injured nobles were crying and wailing on the ground. For a moment, those who were saving people, those who were lost, like the great wizard Jian who fled in a hurry, caused the palace to be in a flurry. Everyone was panicking. A nobleman with a broken arm pointed at Chun Ong and the rest and screamed, What kind of evildoers are you? How dare you kill people in front of the king? Ugh! Before the noble could finish his words, he disappeared with a muffled groan. Zhu Daihao merchant pulled out the dagger from his back and wiped the blood off the dagger with the leather coat of the noble with an indifferent face. He then put the copper dagger back in his sleeve. Chenong did not care about these and walked towards the foreign monk who was sitting in a pool of blood with a peaceful and joyful expression. These people are stupid and have sunk into the sea of bitterness. Does Bodhisattva have a way to save them? Chenong pointed at the people on Deer Terrace platform and asked with a smile. The foreign monk that Masthemaprapta Bodhisattva had transformed and put his palms together and sighed. The wisdom of the heavenly venerable takes care of everything and sees through the heavens and earth. Why bother with them? The Itsu king has 3,000 troubles, but cannot see the truth. The shamans in the country are obsessed with demons, ghosts, and evil gods, like fallen devils. This country is greedy and revels in misfortune, killing more and killing more. As the saying goes, the tongue is a fierce battlefield, and the right is a sea of evil. We need 2 heavenly venerables to descend to the lower realm and release the great Dharma of Buddhism to establish a pure land. The monk smiled and said, the Amateus Buddha's pure land of ultimate bliss in his palm. Everyone is happy and peaceful. It's a pity that they have sunk into the sea of lust. The kind men in the pure land of ultimate bliss followed the celestials. Even though they have the blessings of the celestials, they are unable to transcend. The Amateus Buddha is kind enough to repay the celestials. So he should rule the pure land of ultimate bliss as the celestial realm of the 6 paths. Chun Ong calculated with his fingers and shook his head with a smile. Could it be that Gautama Buddha wants to learn from me to open up the pure land of bliss? He doesn't deserve to be a son, but he really doesn't deserve to be a son. If he wants some face, he should at least tell me first. The foreign monk shook his head and said, the Buddha incarnated as Prince Sakyamuni. The day before yesterday, when he was preaching at the Garden of Solitude, he once said to Sariputra, from the West, there are over 10 trillion Buddhist lands. There's a world called ultimate bliss. There's a Buddha in that land called Amitabha Buddha. Today he is preaching. Shariputra, why is the land called Pure Land? All living beings in the country do not have to suffer, but enjoy all kinds of pleasures, hence the name extreme bliss. In the Saha world created by Buddha, all living beings are content with the 10 evils. They are willing to endure all kinds of suffering and are unwilling to leave. It is the place where the 3 evils and 5 interests meet. Where was it? It was the sea of bitterness. The place where all living beings could reach was the whirling world. The spiritual mountain in the hearts of all living beings was the pure land of the Saha world. My Buddha attained enlightenment in the world of Saha as the Buddha ancestor Saha. The 2 Buddha ancestors attained enlightenment in the world of ultimate bliss as the Buddha ancestor Saha. Chun Ong lamented, Sakyu wants to recruit us. Fellow Taoist, Tathagata, that bastard, is setting up rules for us. He treated the 3 realms as his Saha world and placed the pure land of ultimate bliss that I opened up at the top of the realm of color. Little did he know that the pure land of ultimate bliss was in my palm and Amateus Buddha was outside of it. On this trip with fellow Taoist, we fell into Sakyamuni's trap. I thought that this fellow often invites deities to become Buddhas. With a heretic celestial on the left and a Dharma protector Sangrama on the right, he definitely wouldn't let the 2 of us off. As a matter of fact, a Mahasthemaprapta Bodhisattva came from afar to carry fellow Taoist back to be his Amitabha Buddha. He wants to incorporate my pure land of ultimate bliss and bestow upon me the title of Amitabha Buddha. In the future, all the living beings that my pure land of ultimate bliss will become his wealth. Is this considered a malicious annexation? I must fight with him to see who is the Buddha in this Saha world. The foreign monk couldn't help but interrupt. Amitabha Buddha, my Buddha is... Chunong immediately cut him off and said sternly, Hold on, fellow Taoist lousy, and I will definitely fight with that Sakyamuni to see who is better and who is better. How can we not be the master of this Sahal world if Tathagata can sit on it? I heard that there is a flourishing mystical mountain in the west, and my family also has a godly MT Meru. If fellow Taoist lousy and I win, then it will be Amitabha Buddha and Amitabha Buddha sitting on Mount Meru and ruling over all the Buddhas. If your mystical mountain wins, fellow Taoist lousy, and I will give this incarnation to you and become your Buddha, what do you think? You need to add another pure land of ultimate bliss. Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva bargained. Fine. Chunong agreed and said, then add another pure land of ultimate bliss. The foreign monk who was the incarnation of Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva called an old monk with a sallow face and said, since the two sages have invited me to Mystical Mountain for a duel, then I will be the one to set the topic for Itsu country. How about that? Chunong turned his head to look at Lousy. Lousy sighed slightly and said, Celestial Venerable, I wanted to give one of my incarnations to Buddha, Tathagata. Previously, when Tathagata invited me to become a Buddha, I said before that I would give up one of his incarnations. Why did you drag me into this mess again? Forget it. I will just take out another incarnation. In the silence, they had already decided that Chunong would speak first. Then please set the topic Bodhisattva. The foreign monk recited, in this Itsu country, there are three evils that have made the people suffer for a long time. The nobles, the shamans, and the demons. I will set up 3 duels with the 2 sages to get rid of these 3 evils. But let me say this first. Who we will send out to deal with these 3 evils will have to be decided by both sides. When Monkey King heard this, he frowned and said to Chunong, Master, be careful of a trap. In this Itsu country, what shamans, nobles, or demons are worthy of being our opponent? I just need to hook my finger, and I'll be able to kill them all. This Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva is too easy to use these lowly people as their opponents. Could it be that they are competing to see who is faster? There must be a trap. Chunong smiled and shook his head. Monkey King, continue listening before you speak. Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva said, the duels between the 2 sides are not about the difference in magical power, but the difference in concepts. Therefore, there must be a limit to the 3 duels. The first duel must be won with wisdom, and the second duel must be won with perseverance. Monkey King smiled and interrupted. Bodhisattva, according to what you said, why do we need to get rid of the 3 evils? Let's just compete with wisdom and perseverance? I, old son, am not talented, but I am willing to compete with you in mathematics. The first duel is to calculate heaven and earth. The second duel is to calculate fate. And the third duel is to calculate the human heart. Doesn't this mean that only great wisdom, perseverance, courage, and magical power can win? Chunong nodded in agreement. Although Monkey King's words are presumptuous, they are very reasonable. For the first duel, you will use heaven and earth as your chessboard. The second duel will use the living beings as your chess pieces, and the third duel will be to calculate the human heart. This is a great way to compete. Why should we restrict ourselves to a small Itsu country? Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva pondered for a moment and suddenly smiled. Great Emperor equal to heaven is right. In that case, we will not disregard the taboo for these 3 duels and will use our hearts to communicate. Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva pointed to the old monk beside him and said, my Mount Numinous will choose him for the first duel. Chapter 898. The duel agreement sounded simple, but just like what Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had said, it was merely a matter of heart to heart. Although both sides had agreed that this duel would not be limited to techniques and only the outcome, it was not without rules. However, it wasn't without rules. Just as the Mahasthamaprapta Bodhisattva had said, the battle between the 2 sides was a battle of ideals, not divine abilities. Therefore, although there was no verbal agreement, the principles behind it were known by all parties. The outcome of the duel was not important. Instead, it was the process that mattered. Be it Chunong or Spirited Mountain, they had used the old monk and Zhu Dehao Shang to carry out their own ideals. The person they had chosen was the first round of the duel. It all depended on whether the chosen person could carry out the ideals of both parties. If the old monk acted like a demon and failed to resolve the problem of the Yitu Kingdom's aristocrats with the teachings of Buddhism, then even if they won, they would still lose. If Zhu Dehao Shang failed to understand Chun Ang's ideals and principles, then even if he successfully resolved the problem of the aristocrats in the city, he would still suffer a crushing defeat. Victory or defeat on the surface was meaningless to both parties. Whether the doctrines and principles could adapt to the objective world was the real truth. The ingenuity of this duel was that both parties knew each other through heart to heart. The three duels were not about supernatural powers or magical powers, but about their own principles. Whether or not the conflict of the objective world could be resolved was also something that Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva could not understand. He had never expected that Chunong would choose Zhu Dehao Shang as his candidate. The old monk chosen by Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva had been cultivating since young and had memorized the teachings of Buddhism and precepts. Such a person had integrated the 8 paths of Buddhism into his every move. His every action was in accordance with the teachings of Buddhism. He was a true seed of Buddhism and a virtuous, eminent monk. Even if there was a victory or defeat, such a person would never deviate from the principles of Buddhism and fight for victory or defeat. Whether or not he could eliminate the problem of the Yitu Kingdom's aristocrats was another matter. However, his actions would never deviate from the teachings of Buddhism, and he was already in an undefeatable position. Zhu Dehao, on the other hand, had extensive connections in the Yitu country. He was a ruthless and ruthless person, a formidable and ambitious person. If one were to talk about who could eliminate the threat of the Yitu country's aristocrats, it would be him. However, he was a stubborn person and had long deviated from the great Tao. In the eyes of a great mediocre being like the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva, he had long been satisfied with the 10 evils and had sunk into the 5 pleasures, making it difficult for him to break free. From what Chenong saw, the great merchant Zhu also had his own reasons in his heart, and he was extremely stubborn. In the first half of his life, he achieved great success because of his own actions and reasons. As the later generations said, he was a person whose worldview had already been formed. Unless there was a great change, he would not be shaken. This was why it was already extremely difficult for such a person to follow the path of others, much less to be like that old monk, unwavering and unyielding. In the eyes of the great merchant Zhu, everything in the world was like buying and selling. There was nothing that didn't have a price, and there was nothing that couldn't be traded. When doing things and being a person, one had to weigh the costs, gain the profits, and earn everything one wanted. It was the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva who had personally enlightened him, using his great divine power to cause him to encounter a great change. His heart was shaken, and he realized the impermanence of life, which led to him praying to the Dharma. When he comprehended the Dharma, it was inevitable that he would secretly calculate the value in transactions. In the face of this kind of thinking, everything that was stable would vanish in a thin air, and everything that was sacred would be blasphemed. The retribution of the gods and Buddhas was just a transaction. This kind of egoism that was rooted in the bones of the great merchant Zhu could drown all religious piety, transcendent awareness, and the wisdom of the enlightened. It turned the holiness of the Dharma into ugliness and nakedness, turning it into a transaction. He was the camel that couldn't pass through the eye of a needle at the foot of heaven, an evil creature that sank into the sea of bitterness, and an idiot with great obsession. Perhaps the great merchant Zhu didn't think so, but in the eyes of Chenong and the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva, he had instinctively torn down the dignified and mysterious veil that covered the face of the gods and Buddhas, turning this relationship of teaching and faith into a pure exchange of benefits. In the eyes of the Mahastamaprapta Bodhisattva, such a person was harder to enlighten than the most ruthless nobles and evildoers. He had traveled with Chun Ong and Laozi for a month, yet he didn't listen to the slightest bit of reasoning from Chenong. How could such a person carry out Chun Ang's ideals and display Chun Ang's awareness and reasoning in this battle? The Mahastemaprapta Bodhisattva was also hesitant. The old monk pondered for a moment before sighing, Bodhisattva, it's easy to subdue demons and devils, but it's difficult to subdue people's hearts. People's hearts are fickle. The three poisons of greed, ignorance, and anger have seeped into their bones. It's extremely difficult to enlighten them. When I had my supernatural powers, I didn't dare to easily make promises. But now that I'm immortal and the hearts of these people are like hell, it's really difficult to enlighten them. If I'm not careful, they might even harm me. Bodhisattva, please bestow me with a treasure so that I can explain the vastness of Buddhism to them. The old monk thought hard, but couldn't think of a way to subdue people's hearts. Therefore, he asked for help. He followed the righteous path of Buddhism. So if he wanted to get rid of the harm of the nobles in the country, he had to enlighten them. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva dared to swear that hell was not empty and that he wouldn't become a Buddha, but he also had the supernatural powers of Buddhism. If he was immortal, even if Sakyamuni personally descended to the mortal world, there would be Devdatta, who betrayed Buddha. When Mahastara country annihilated the Sakya family, there were even more who refused to convert to the heterodox path. From this, it could be seen that even if Tathagata descended to the mortal world, he could only subdue his own heart and teach his disciples, but he couldn't enlighten the masses. He was just an old monk, so how would he dare to say that he could enlighten the country's nobles with Buddhism? Wouldn't that mean he was even more powerful than Sakyamuni? Chun Ong dared to say that he could enlighten all sentient beings because he had the great art of brainwashing. If a bunch of foolish people fell into the pure land of ultimate bliss, it would be easy for him to control and brainwash them with his supernatural powers. When the time comes, he would be pious and kind if he wanted him to be. This was the true path of Buddhism, the righteous path of enlightenment. And the reason why the Bodhisattvas dared to make such a wish was because of their own supernatural powers. If their supernatural powers were weaker, they would have been killed by the demons long ago, and there would be no need to mention the words enlighten all living beings. This wish of Buddhism to enlighten all living beings was just an illusion without the support of supernatural powers, falling into the heterodox path. Mahastara Bodhisattva sighed helplessly. He could only put his palms together and asked Laozi and Chanong, "Heavenly Venerables, please allow me to bestow upon my disciple a Buddhist treasure so that I can enlighten the vastness of Buddhism." Chanong smiled and said, "This is Bodhisattva's excessive kindness. But according to my calculations, even if I want to walk the righteous path of Buddhism and eliminate all evil, I can't do it with my mortal body. Therefore, I have to agree to Bodhisattva's request." Mahastara Bodhisattva thanked the two saints and took down the vase on his head. He said to the old monk, "This vase of wisdom only allows you to cast illusory spells. You cannot use supernatural powers recklessly." He then said to Chinong, "Please bestow upon me a treasure as a sign of fairness." Chinong smiled and said, "This is bullying Bodhisattva too much." He then walked to the parterre of Deer Terrace Pavilion and broke off a withered branch. He said to Zhu Deheo, "There's a strange flower in the west called Mandala Rolangaros. It has illusory poison and can enchant people. I didn't expect Ichu country to have it, but it's a pity that it hides in the winter, so it's hard to see. Although it is late winter now, the Mahastemaprapta Bodhisattva has come from thousands of miles away. I will make this flower bloom and cover the entire Deer Terrace as a celebration. This flower on the terrace will be my gift to you." Chapter 899. Merchant Zhu looked at the scene of flowers blooming all over Deer Terrace Pavilion in an instant and was dumbfounded. When he came to his senses, he grumbled to himself, "I'm familiar with this Dachira flower. When the caravan goes to Righteous Canal in Dachin, I've also done the trading of Dachira flowers. Other than shamans using it to burn incense and concoct medicine, I've never heard of it having any other uses. To bloom a garden of flowers in winter, it's the work of an immortal. But what's the use? When spring comes, such useless flowers are everywhere. The foreign monk received a treasure bottle. When it's my turn, why did I receive such a thing? However, Merchant Jew was a merchant after all. He quickly snapped out of his daze and thought to himself, there are only useless merchants. How can it be useless goods? This Dachira flower can be found everywhere on a normal day. There might not be anything rare about it. But now that it's winter, all kinds of grass have withered, so I have the capital to do business. Not to mention that the flowers are blooming everywhere. It's the work of an immortal. In that case, it can be considered a rare commodity. At that moment, King Itsiu, who was in the Deer Terrace Pavilion Palace, heard the news and rushed out. When he saw the Dachira flowers in the snow, the fragrance was subtle, and the 7-colored flowers blooming, he was instantly shocked. He stammered, "Paragons of the Central Plains. This is..." Chun Ong smiled and answered, "I'm extremely grateful for your Majesty's hospitality. Therefore, I specially ordered the Dachira flowers to bloom in the garden to repay your Majesty." The moment he said that, before King Itsiu could react, Merchant Zhu was a little stunned. He looked at Chun Ong with a look of reverence. Even Merchant Zhu was ashamed of his inferiority in the ability to do a transaction 3 times. The Mahastemaprapta Bodhisattva said to bestow a treasure bottle, and Chun Ong wanted to bestow Dachira flowers. First, Mandala Heavenly Rain did Mahastemaprapta Bodhisattva a favor. Then she gave the flowers as treasures to Merchant Zhu. Finally, she sold the auspicious flowers in winter to King Itsiu as a favor. Selling a favor 3 times, it was really a good deal. Merchant Zhu thought about it carefully and realized that this was a brilliant deal. This was the first time he had done a favor for the Mahastemaprapta Bodhisattva. Although Merchant Zhu didn't know Chun Ang's identity or the origin of the Mahastemaprapta Bodhisattva, he was certain that both of them had extremely high statuses. This was equivalent to Chun Ong giving face to the Mahastemaprapta Bodhisattva. If it was a commoner who was not of high status, not to mention flowers blooming in Deer Terrace Pavilion, even if the ground was paved with gold, the tiles were made of colored glass, and the hall was made of white jade, it was the duty of the commoner to receive them with great hospitality. It was not a favor. Only people like Chun Ong, the Jade Emperor, and Laozi would receive them, even if they took a few steps. The second favor was to bestow upon Zhu Deheo Shang a treasure that would allow him to complete the duel. What he bestowed upon him was an opportunity. For a top merchant like Zhu Deheo Shang, as long as he was given a chance to obtain these Dachira flowers, everything would be settled and they would naturally fight for it. The third favor to the Itsiu king was to sell the auspicious winter flowers. This kind of miracle would greatly increase the Itsiu king's prestige. After careful calculation, Chun Ong sold the Mahastemaprapta Bodhisattva the face of personally making the Dachira flowers bloom. He sold the Deer Terrace flowers to Zhu Daheo Shang, as well as the opportunity it would create, and he sold the Itsiu king the meaning of the flowers to others. This garden of Dachira flowers had been sold 3 times, and every single one of them was the most meaningful to the other party. They had completely squeezed out the value of the flowers. This kind of business method made the great Merchant Zhu feel great admiration, and he seemed to have understood something. That Itsiu king accepted the favor and said in a happy voice, "Honored guest truly has the ability of a ghost, doing what others cannot do. I have finally tasted what it feels like to be a king. I've heard that in the Central Plains, the Son of Heaven is feudal. If the monarch wants his ministers to die, the ministers have no choice but to die. This warhound's old custom is rude and unreasonable. It is much worse than in the Central Plains. If there is a day when I can be like the 2 doctors and order these flowers to bloom in the winter, the will of the heavens and the hearts of the people will follow. There is nothing better than this." Chun Ong asked, "I wonder where the king heard this reasoning from." The Itsiu king said with a smile, "It is a scholar from the Qi kingdom who passed by my Itsiu country. This king summoned him to the Deer Terrace Pavilion, and he told me this." Merchant Zhu Deheo Shang on the side said with a cold laugh in his heart, I don't know where this barbarian heard this strange theory from, but I will treat it as a custom of the Central Plains. If the monarch wants his ministers to die, I will kill the monarch first. This is the true nature of us scholars. The Etu king ordered people to clean up the mess in the hall. Outside the palace, on the deer terrace pavilion, there was a banquet to celebrate the auspicious sign from the heavens and the blossoming of the Dachira flowers. Because there were heavy casualties in the deer terrace pavilion, and the ground was covered in blood, it was no longer suitable for a banquet. Merchant Zhu Dehao Shang pondered for a long time before he had an idea. He went up to consult the Monkey King. Gentleman's son, I don't know how extraordinary the precious vase that the foreign monk bestowed upon me is. As for the immortal elder's order for the garden of Dachira flowers to bloom, I also don't have a clue about it. I hope that gentleman can give me some pointers so that I can grasp a clue so that I can win this competition. The Monkey King plucked a Dachira flower from the side and said with a smile, "That precious vase is useless. The flower that my master planted is very useful. You have gained a great advantage. I will let you know that the precious vase is the symbol of the limitless light of wisdom. It can allow all living beings to escape from the disaster of blood and blades. It contains limitless light that can free all suffering, surpassing the sun and moon. It is the light of limitless wisdom." Merchant Zhu Dehao Shang was shocked. How can such limitless divine power be useless? Even if the foreign monk restricted the power of the precious vase, even if he used a 10,000th of its power, how can I fight against the bunch of Dachira flowers that I have? The Monkey King laughed. His wisdom is different from mine. He is just bragging. Don't be fooled by him. Merchant Zhu Dehao Shang was puzzled. Is there a difference in wisdom? The Monkey King explained. The wisdom of the Masthemaprapta Bodhisattva and the coquettish old barbarians of Mount Numinous were all exaggerated by them. I want you to know that his wisdom is prajna, while my master's wisdom is wisdom. The so-called prajna is a method to eliminate the combination of what one sees and what one sees, leading to the path of liberation. Through the practice of uniting the various branches, the impurities will gradually decrease, and the light of knowledge will illuminate one's ability to discern. As for my family's wisdom, it is to understand the inherent nature of the movement of things, the inevitable and the stable connections. It is to understand the rules of the world that are not subject to human will. His family's prajna is to understand a metaphysical Tao body, the origin of all things, or to seek to eliminate the stubbornness and obstacles in one's heart. I have a verse, prajna. The heart is like a Bodhi tree. The body is like a mirror. The Bodhi tree and the mirror are wisdom, prajna. As for my family's wisdom, it is to understand the objective world, to grasp the laws of the changes, movements, and development of the material world. I don't even think that dogs hit prajna is some kind of wisdom. If I meditate and meditate like him every day and see any wisdom from my own heart, then I, old son, will be laughing at me. Such wisdom, other than to numb myself, is nothing. Humans are just a tiny speck of dust in the universe. The so-called consciousness, thoughts, and heart are not the principles of the great Tao. They're just like plants and rocks. If there is anything special about the heart, it is that it can understand the laws of the world. If one is obsessed with the self and heart, they will not be able to realize that the world does not depend on anyone's heart and self. The wisdom that they seek is just a murmur that echoes in the universe. Monkey King sighed. If one cannot understand the objective world, no matter how much they boast about their wisdom, it is just an illusion. Therefore, the great potential treasure bottle contains a bottle of illusions. As long as you have true wisdom, these illusions are nothing to you. Zhu Dehao Shang was half confused and half drenched in cold sweat. He said with difficulty, "Gentleman's son, even if it is an illusion, how many people in Ichu country can see through it? If they can't see through it, how is it any different from reality? Immortal Master Chun gave me a bunch of Dachira flowers that I don't know what to do. This is really difficult." Monkey King said, "This Dachira flower has endless uses. It is a treasure that is truly based on the objective world and the laws of the world. Listen to me.